Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This will be day 2 or day 3 of the Trump ear piercing, incident. It's Sunday, July 14th. I'm just releasing my first video, and again, I don't know if these videos are going to be monetized or not. If there's no ads, then you know you can help support this. I mean, I'm basically working for free, so even if you leave a buck or two or something like this, it can help out to support this. I can't cover this for free, so we'll see how it goes. I'm uploading the first video, like I said. Now we'll see if they monetize it. And as I am, I have to say now every time I make a video, please subscribe, resubscribe, hit the notifications button, or just bookmark my channel, as I am being shadow banned as so many other people are. And so if you want to continue to see this content, let YouTube know by leaving a comment or doing whatever you've got to do, liking the video, to let YouTube know that you value my content and you want to continue to see it. Otherwise, they'll hide it away from you, which they've done to so many people. So I found my compilation, and I'm going to show you that first off, and then I have a couple little video clips that are happening right now. And then as this story unfolds, we'll cover more of this stuff. But the first piece I want to say was, yesterday was a frustrating day for me and my wife, like abnormally so. This happened before the big event in 2001. I was very unsettled. I was very rattled. I felt like something was looming. Of course, I didn't know that I was going to question the official story like I do now. But the big event that happened in 2001, I just felt like weird for about 2 weeks. I felt the way everyone else felt after the event happened. Like I felt that way for a while. It was weird, and especially right before it happened, like something was, like looming. And yesterday was a bad day. Like just my wife and I were going through separate frustrations, and then together we were dealing with some company that we realized just got hacked. Someone finally told us they were acting incompetently, and then we found out why, because they had just got hacked. And of course, AT&T just got hacked. But it was just a day I felt very tired. I couldn't get things done I wanted to do. I had a little sort of minor accident when I was, not that I got hurt or anything, but just, something that was avoidable. I was just so tired and whatever it was, doing farm work. And so, but it just felt, the day felt heavy. And of course, this thing happened with Trump, and then that kind of explained it, because, it was just something looming, right? That's going to have negative effects throughout this, next whatever period of time. Like things are going to get worse because of this event. And Trump this looks like a POS, right? This is where, it should be obvious to people, especially in the truth community, that he's a part of it. Like he's, the whole thing doesn't work without his cooperation. So let me start off by showing you this, though. This is aforementioned compilation that I made, and I remade it fairly recently. It shows you political staging, political theater, which Trump and Biden have long been a part of, right? Okay, so I decided to re-put together my original compilation because it'll be better quality. I have better equipment. Like, it'll just be better. But this is a compilation of this political stunt, and you can see it's a stunt because it's done over and over again. At the end, I'll explain how and why it happened. But this is the compilation. Let's start here with Obama. He did it a lot, and he sort of perfected it.
I'm sorry, what's going on? Somebody's not feeling good? All right. Why don't we have, we can get our doctors back there to help out. Somebody want to go to my doctor's office and just have them? All right. Where was I? Can somebody help out, please, and get Doc Jackson in here? Somebody grabbing our doctor?
Thank you, Mr. President, for stopping.
Of course. In the meantime, just give her a little room.
So there's a command of the room, right? There's a being
You
compassionate.
guys know where the doctor's office is? 'Cause just go through the palm doors. It's right next to the map room. There he is. All right, there's Doc Jackson. He's all right.
But this is a more famous one. There is a young woman behind him who's pregnant, no less.
That one illness. There you go. You okay? I'm right here. I got you.
He saves her.
No, you're okay. This happens when I talk too long.
Makes a joke.
Why don't you go? You got it? Come on.
Woo, you're such a great guy. Woo. Woo. What a leader.
Good catch, by the way.
Good catch, he says. Want to let you know, the woman, you heard the applause, she's okay. Her name
She's
is
okay. Obama saved her. She's okay. Bill Clinton started this.
The banks have $1.8 trillion in cash. We got plenty of money to put this country to work. We need a doctor here. This lady fainted in the heat.
It's diagnosing her, taking control.
Let's give her some water. It's hot out here.
Water. That's a big thing. Water's a big thing, they say.
Is there a doctor here? All right, we got a doctor. There's nothing the rest of you can do, so pay attention to me. You'll just get in the way. She'll be fine. Believe me, at my age, it's
She didn't have a cardiac arrest or just, anything like that. She'll be fine.
rarely does a lady faint on me.
Trump got into the action several times.
Is there a doctor in the house, please? Doctor?
Is there a doctor anywhere? Doctor?
Doctor, please. We have plenty of time, right? That's fine. Take your time.
So they start singing Amazing Grace. Look at him. Look at this dork. Look at this fish boy MNF'er. Pathetic fish boy.
You don't need, Mr. President, you don't need North Carolina, the 9th District. You got someone, all right. Got someone heated over here. Give them some space.
A doctor in the house, please. Doctor, please.
Look at him take control. Look at him. He's such a compassionate, take control guy.
Doctor in the house, thank you.
Is there a doctor? Doctor in the house? Get him some water.
Hatred in our heart. Could we have a doctor, please? A doctor. A doctor, please. Thank you. A doctor, thank you. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. It is about 100 degrees in here, folks, so.
It's so hot. It's just hot and people are passing out left and right.
It's about rallying when things go wrong. She's okay. It's okay. That happens to a lot of people who have to stand up for a long time.
Standing up. If you have to stand up for a long time, you fade. It's just fact.
We need one of our medics here. We've got
Medics?
a young girl who fainted. But it happens all the time. She's going to be okay. Sometimes standing up. If anybody is starting to feel tired, standing up, bend your knees and eat your breakfast and lunch. You okay? Make sure she's okay too, right here. Right here. Everybody else feeling okay? Are y'all still fired up and ready to go? Are you?
There you go. Rick Santorum.
Country before government decided that it had to start taking from those. Sorry, we have someone I think the heat has got to them. So make sure if there's any emergency personnel that can get here, I want to make sure that this person gets some help.
Taking control. Being compassionate.
Hand that down.
Give water. Give a water bottle.
You okay? Just tell us he's okay.
Right here.
Give him a chair. Get a water bottle and a chair. They just happen to have a chair and a water bottle there. Go in the audience. Make sure she's okay. This is, yeah, it's not staged at all. This is just, it just happens. Woo! So compassionate. Such a good guy.
I am struck by how many young people. There's somebody fainted.
Did somebody faint?
Somebody fainted over there.
Over there, did somebody faint?
Can we get them some water, some help?
Water and some help, a doctor perhaps?
Okay. Get somebody over there. So let me know if you need any. Is there somebody here who can help? We want to make sure that we take care of the lady who fainted.
Woo.
I thought it was the talk of Republicans that might have done it.
Good joke. So there's always a thing, right? There's a joke. It's too hot. Happens. Person's going to be okay. Get him some water. Get him a doctor. So here's 3 more times Obama. And so that's a total of 5 I found right off the bat. There's probably many more out there.
Good to be back in New Hampshire. Oh, okay. We'll be all right. They probably were just standing too long. Just give them a little space.
They'll be all right, reassuring you, and then telling you what happened. They're probably just standing too long, so they decided to pass out. You know, I mean, when you're standing forever, eventually you're just going to pass out. That's what happens. Everyone has a certain level of time, and especially if it's hot, you stand and then you pass out.
Where's our EMS folks?
Get the doctor.
They'll be okay. Just give them a little space.
Give them space. That's space.
This happens sometimes. You guys been here a while after the magging? Well, no, you have to eat ahead of time.
You got to eat. You got to eat some food.
Keep your blood sugar up.
Boom. Keep your blood sugar up.
We got somebody over there? Jordan? Right in the middle. Here we go. Here's our guy.
Boom. He looks a little bit like deer in headlights, like Jojo Magoo.
I'm sorry, what's going on? Somebody's not feeling good?
Does not feel somebody.
All right. Why don't we have, we can get our doctors back there to help out. Somebody want to go to my doctor's office and just
taking control here.
Like somebody might have fainted up here. If we got some of the EMS,
somebody fainted.
Buddy, don't worry about. Folks do this all the time.
They do it all the time. I know. They just didn't die. They just didn't have cardiac arrest. They didn't have a heart attack. They didn't have a stroke. Just it happens. They're going to be fine.
Meetings. I mean, you always got to eat before you stand for a long time. That's a little tip, but they'll be okay. Just make sure that give them a little room.
You know, clear it out. 6 feet of space. Leave them in the middle, laying on the floor. They'll be fine.
All right, everybody all right?
Everybody all right. Let's get going again. I don't want to rush things. We're in no rush. Take our time. Let's make sure everyone knows how compassionate and great I am.
And they're the men's champs. Folks, it's okay. Forget. Want some water?
Want some water? No, you're going to throw it. She's way over here. Just throw the water bottle at her. But then he just sort of loses it. Like he's just lost focus here. Like he's just so clueless. And so, like, maybe he thinks it's a staged event, but he's not sure. He's not in on it. Because usually he would offer water. And you're supposed to take command of the room. And Jojo Magoo just sucks so much worse than all the rest of them, right? Just shows you how incompetent. Like, he can't even pull this staged. I mean, this posing, these posers. He can't even pull this off. So this happened probably organically at an event. And then they saw it hit. It was a big hit. It made the person look like they were in control. Oftentimes it was when they were talking about healthcare. If you see the full speeches, healthcare was involved. There's probably I've seen probably 10 or more of Obama doing it. You see Trump's done at least 3 times, probably more. There's a couple more with Hillary. And the first person I know who did it was Clinton. But there's other politicians, I'm forgetting them, I think. And, there's just been all these different, it's a thing they do. And it shows the person being compassionate. It shows them being competent, right? And just looking at the bigger picture, humanizing them, taking control, right? You hear the people applauding. The Obama one where the woman fainted right behind him, and he turned around to catch her, that was the creme de la creme. But it's just political theater, and it's just so bad, right? It shows you just how fake it is. And you can say, well, Trump, they're all fake except for Trump's, right? And these are, people who are willing to pose and act. These are posers and actors, right? This is just posturing and posing. And it's something they do to fool you, the audience member, into believing something about them that isn't true, that they care about you, and they don't, right? It's just a bunch of posers. So what this is about is famous people, certainly politicians, but famous people or people who want to be famous have publicists, right? Now, there's lots of people who are their own publicists. Now with the advent of social media, but people do this in a small level and have been doing it for years. When people want to control the narrative and create a perception about themselves that usually isn't true, making them look better, making them look like they possess character qualities and they're the kind of person that they're not. Qualities they don't possess and character qualities they don't possess and, the kind of person they are, right? My wife and I were walking on the beach maybe 2 years ago, and there was a young woman with her dad, like a teenage girl and her dad. And she was playing in the ocean with her dog. And he was taping it for Instagram, and she was giving him instructions. And I go, I bet she hasn't pet that dog in 2 years. It was just, she did it for, social media. But you see people putting stuff up on social media all the time, taking hundreds of pictures and framing a narrative the way they want it, right? And politicians want to do that. They want to show themselves as something that they're not. And they really can't do it in normal life, so it has to be in these public events. And so stagecraft and political theater is something that happens all the time. And once you engage in that once, you lose all credibility. You might come clean and say that you have a come to Jesus moment or whatever it is, but you lose all credibility because you're lying to your audience who usually are your fans and supporters, and you're putting one over on them, right? You're presenting yourself in a way that isn't correct. And everybody does that to some extent. People do it unconsciously. Every time you hear a story from me or somebody else, I'm going to frame the story in a way that makes me look better than maybe, like my ex, or, whatever it is, right? Everyone has their point of view. But in terms of stagecraft, where you stage something like this, where there's acting and there's, this theater, that takes it to another level. Like you're telling this story to your friends and family, you might leave out details that make you look bad and, put in other details that make you look good. That's just what people do. It's not great, but it happens. We're all subjective, and some of that happens unconsciously. But if you actively create an event with other people and you're staging and you're acting something, you lose all credibility. And Trump has lost all credibility long ago. And so it's right for us to have doubts about it. It just, it's good to have doubts about it because he's an untrustworthy person because of what he's done here, right? He's done something that would indicate that he's not worthy of our trust. He's doing something that is, we question his legitimacy of his, whatever these performative things he does, right? And so all of these politicians engaged in this, and they copy each other. It was done by Clinton years ago. You saw that first one, Bill Clinton. And I don't know who else has done it since, but we know Obama picked up on it. He was doing it everywhere. and then all these other people. And so they're deceiving their loyal fans and the people that watch them in a way that's just unforgivable, right? But this is politics. And so for Trump, now he's engaged in another event that's happened on stage that looks performative. Its timing is, impeccable before the convention, and the way that the theater of the thing, and him pumping his fist, and the narrative that's being created, especially amongst his followers, is hard to believe, right? Like, there's so many flaws in it. The Secret Service completely failing, leaving a shooter on top of a building, and these other details are coming out. So that's, where we're starting off, where it's more unbelievable than not. The other thing is, sometimes you're watching a TV show or a movie or something, and there's a scene in there where it's just not believable, right? Like, something happens that just, it wouldn't happen in reality. And, movies and TV shows are filled with those things. You have to take a leap of, all right, this is imaginary, this is a story, it's not real life. And you have to take a leap to invest in the movie or TV show. But sometimes something happens that's just, you're like, yeah, that wouldn't happen, right? That didn't happen. And it just takes you out of the movie and TV show. And that's what I felt like when I saw that thing happen with Trump, coming out with the blood on his face and, pumping his fist and these things. I'm like, yeah, this didn't happen, right? This is staged. So anyways, let's get into some of the other stuff here. So when they have one of these events that the official story just doesn't seem to be legitimate, and they roll out day 1, day 2, day 3, these packages, intelligence community has these, when they put out like a psychological operation, they have these packages of a narrative that unfolds, right? They do it piecemeal by piecemeal. And so the event happens, then there's, the official press conference and things like this. This has happened. This is what happened. This is what we know. And then slowly they reveal different details that are obviously important to the agenda that's eventually going to come out of that event, right? When there's something that is supposed to move people politically, and there's going to be victim consciousness, there's going to be, this level of kind of whatever this stuff is, they're going to, set up this narrative. It's a package, and they release it day by day. And so this thing happened with the Kennedy assassination years ago. And so, and it goes around the world where pieces of information are released. People want to know, well, what happened here? Well, who's responsible? What was the Secret Service doing? Why did this happen? Why did the guy, these things, right? Who was the guy? What was his motivation?
Robin, good morning. Today, the most exhaustive investigation into a single suspect in recent history continues as the FBI desperately tries to find the motive for the man they say tried to assassinate former President Trump.
Okay, so he doesn't have a social media profile because, without the tools that FBI and, all these, agencies have and news agencies have, you'd first look into the guy's social media. And he's a 20-year-old kid, and he just did this event. He has to have some sort of a footprint on social media. And so you would immediately know what he identifies as in terms of politically. He has to have some Trump hatred out there, right? There would have to be something, videos of him, and this stuff might be released later. But within 10 minutes, you or I could figure out this guy's profile if we knew who he was. Like if we saw, like if they had access to his social media accounts, which we would, right? They'd be public, because usually something like this, it would be. They always have these manifestos. Where's his manifesto? Is there a manifesto somewhere? Is that day 3? When do they release his manifesto? All these types of things, right? It becomes something where, it just doesn't look like it's organic. The other thing is, well, let's watch him go here.
We had what we're calling an assassination attempt against our former president, Donald Trump.
This morning, an intensive investigation into the man believed to have been the shooter trying to kill former President Trump.
Again, just like, my wife and I were talking about this because she was hearing the same thing from other people. You have to assume there's a second shooter. He's completely exposed here. Like, there could be someone right here in the crowd, someone out here in front of him. Like, his head is exposed from here all the time he walks to the car. I'll show you this in a video clip later. Hopefully I'll remember. I'll do that tomorrow. But, like, he's not protected. His head's not down, him pumping his fist, all of it, right? Like they're just not. Well, we got the one guy. Well, how do you know there's like 10,000 people there? How do you know there's not 3 other shooters there, right? Like there's multiple. I mean, it's just silly to assume that's their job to assume that they didn't get the only guy, right? Like his head should not be exposed. You shouldn't see him again. Like they should put like a jacket over him, whatever. You shouldn't even be able to see him, in terms of any of these things, because he's exposed from here to the time he gets to the car.
In this video, believed to be the suspected gunman, according to a law
They're
enforcement
yelling he's got a gun.
official briefed on the investigation, a man in what appears to be a T-shirt and khaki shorts.
Khakis. It's a khaki shorts. Everyone throw out your khaki shorts.
On a rooftop, allegedly firing an AR-15 style assault rifle.
Wait, it's an AR-15? I would have never guessed that. I mean, who would have guessed that's what it was? I mean, there's no way that was. I mean, it's just like I would have said something else, like a crossbow. Can't even believe it's an AR-15.
In the direction of the Trump rally.
Shots fired towards the blue water tank.
And in this aerial video from our affiliate WTAE, you see a man's body after he was shot and killed by what sources say.
So they didn't have this staked out at all? This guy got access to this? They didn't have somebody up there? Like, there's just, it's silly. It's a massive failure by Secret Service that they would leave something like this where this guy would have access to be able to shoot Trump in the ear.
Was a Secret Service counter sniper. The FBI overnight using DNA and biometrics to identify the suspect as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania.
And our hearts go out.
You don't have a picture of the guy? You couldn't find one you couldn't find one fucking picture of the guy. There's nothing on social media. There's nothing. All you have is this. This is what you have. It's just the guy right here. Thomas Matthew Crooks. We don't have anything else, right? Nothing about the guy. That's what he looks like. There's no pictures. The guy that doesn't have a phone, doesn't have any pictures. Nobody has any pictures of him. You don't have anything. Not high school yearbook picture. Like you don't know what race he is. What is any of these things? What's his gender? What's his pronouns? Like what's up with this guy right here? You know nothing about him other than this is his name and this is where he lives.
Pennsylvania.
And our hearts go out to the victims of this heinous act which occurred today.
Searches conducted overnight at the suspect's home and locations associated with the young man as authorities try to piece together his background and potential motive. Law enforcement.
So yeah, they have nothing. You have nothing. Day one, you have nothing. A bunch of stuff's going to come out tomorrow, but right now they have nothing. There's no social media. There's no anything. Here he is right here. So they have a picture here. This is Thomas Matthew Crooks. Like this guy. He was wearing khaki shorts. He looks like a real assassinator. They have two pictures here. He is here. This guy here. He's wearing a American flag with looks like the Mount Rushmore on him. But these are the two pictures of him, right? And then this one, I guess he's gotten older. He's got this hair and stuff. Definitely a manifesto out there somewhere. And they'll be releasing that probably day 3. Maybe I'll even cover the manifesto tomorrow before this video comes out. But here he is here. Just looks like one of those loners. Doesn't get along with anybody, misunderstood, bullied, no friends, these kind of things. I mean, we've seen these caricatures, these profiles rolled out almost every time. This is that guy. I mean, just typical person that they pick for this kind of thing, right? Like this loser kind of guy who's just, crazy, but he can pull off something like that. He can outsmart the Secret Service and fire 5 shots at the former president before they take care of him. Here he is here. So I am Thomas Crooks, video of Trump hating man. Okay, so there's more information in. This is part of the video I already showed you, but I didn't watch the whole thing, but I ended up watching the rest of it.
Our evidence response team, bomb technicians.
The FBI director is personally in.
So the guy brought a bomb. He's a 20-year-old kid. He got the gun from his dad, and he brought a bomb to the site, and he did all this with some 20-year-old, appears to be some loser living at home.
Involved in this case, which is now the highest priority of the FBI. The Attorney General has repeatedly warned about a surge in threats of political violence.
Boom, what's happening?
And law enforcement sources have been telling me for months that this is perhaps the most dangerous threat environment since 9/11, Robin.
Yes, we have
Whoa.
been hearing that, Pierre. And Pierre, there are already calls for an investigation into the Secret Service.
That's right, Robin. The House Oversight Committee chairman has officially invited the Secret Service director to appear before a hearing on July 22nd. I'm told by the Secret Service this morning that the director will cooperate with any congressional investigation and that an internal investigation will now be launched to review the security for yesterday's event. One thing that will be looked at is whether the security perimeter needs to be pushed back.
So I want to talk about the perimeter when I'm done with all this crap. Hopefully I'll remember, but the perimeter is important. So then there was this.
A New York Times photographer captured this image of what appears to show a bullet racing by the former president's head.
What an amazing photograph. Let's go back there. Look at this thing. There it is right here. Look at right here's the bullet here. It just clipped Trump's ear. It just pierced his ear. And then it's going by his head here. Here's the bullet. Here's the chemtrail behind it. And it's just amazing photography. I mean, just faster than a speeding bullet. It's got this thing. It's just what a shot, right? Trump's grimacing. Boom. Clipped him. Boom. There goes the bullet. Racing by the president.
Former president's head. The FBI identified the gunman as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania.
It's Megamind here. It's a criminal mastermind.
They say he fired shots from outside the secure cordoned area of the rally.
Okay, so where? Oh, over here? Is that what they're saying? The guy was up here on this. Must be a building over here. And he was on the roof. And they didn't have drones. They didn't have perimeter. I'm going to get into this stuff in a bit. But, like, they didn't have some guy up there. Like, you know, what you would do is, I mean, again, I'm not an expert in this thing, right? Like, I'm not a forensic expert. I'm not some, marksman or something. I mean, I don't have any military training or any of these things. But this is what I would do. I would get up on the stage and look around the surrounding area, get somebody around Trump's height, and see where he could be shot from. Like, is there a building over here that you could see? If you can see the roof from the building from here, if you can see the roof, then the chances are someone could shoot you from there. They should have had somebody up here. They should have had their own anti, marksman up here, or they should have this area just so they could see, they could see into this event, right? And it's like just, if you can see the place where you're getting shot from, if you can see a potential place, especially higher ground, a rooftop, I mean, those are always the best places to get a clean shot. And so, I mean, it looks like it's pretty far away. And so, I mean, it's an AR-15 isn't a sniper rifle. We don't know what type of scope he had on it. But I think he was standing up. I think he was laying down. He stood up to shoot. Is that what they were saying? At least, the story always changes, right? But you would put somebody here and look up here and say, all right, we need someone on that rooftop. You look around this whole area and see where somebody would have a clean shot from him. These trees over here, wherever it might be. I mean, it's silly, not to do that, right?
Atop an elevated structure.
He starts shooting. Bow, 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 bow.
Bow, 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 bow.
About 4 to 5
bow, 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 bow.
shots rang out.
Law enforcement converged on Crooks' family's suburban Pittsburgh home overnight.
They asked us to leave our house. They told us it was a state of emergency.
I don't know what they're doing. Like what? What could have happened? What could my son have possibly done?
No warning. They just knocked on the door in the middle of the night.
Officials
no warning. Just come in. I'm sleeping. I'm like, your son has just shot President Trump in the ear, and we need to kick you out of your house.
Gunman fired 6 to 8 rounds from an AR-15 assault rifle before he was
an AR-15 type assault rifle.
Shot and killed by a member of the Secret Service counter-assault team. The FBI called it, quote, surprising that he was able to fire at the stage before he was killed.
We do not currently have...
Okay, so that's, this was a complete fail. No drones. There should have been somebody looking at the rooftop. Apparently the guy was walking around suspicious and the police noticed him. People noticed him. I mean, all these things that are going to disappear at some point, and there'll be an official story. And all these details that are coming out now, a lot of them will disappear. It won't be a part moving forward, and you won't be able to find them on the internet. There she is, Kristi Noem.
Listen, I just saw, like all of you, that President Trump was just shot at his rally in Pennsylvania. And I will tell you, these people are evil.
These people. Who are these people? Who are these people? The people that kill their dogs and write about it in a book and then lose their chance of being vice president? Those people?
And that President Trump has known that they are wanting to take him out. This man has stood through challenges that I've seen no other person stand through. And he has taken more hits for the American people than ever before. These people are
Ever before? Before he was shot? What are you talking about, you dope? Like, and there's just something going on here. This plastic surgery and
evil. They need to be eliminated from power, and President Trump is the only one who can do that. God.
So who are you saying did this? Like, who are you saying? Did you see Biden did this? Biden pulled off this masterpiece of an assassination attempt that they clipped Trump's ear. Who is they? Who are they, Christy?
Bless President Trump. And God protect him and keep him and his family safe, and he will win.
You know, not the people that died. What about the people in Israel? Nah, not them. What about the people, all the other people being shot, but this piece of shit, right? You expect God to protect this piece of shit, right?
Election because he loves this country.
He does. He loves this country. Okay, so today's still Sunday, July 14th. So I have a bunch of video clips to get to. Some of them I've watched. Some of them I, just by the title alone, they're interesting about this Trump shit. I'm on my Donald Trump shit. That was a quote from a rap song by Ariana Grande's dead boyfriend, whatever his name was, Mac Miller. You know, and there's this stuff that I want to get to because you'll see it in these clips. One where they say that this kid is disturbed, and the other is Joe Biden saying he wishes Trump well, right? You know, there's nothing I dislike more than insincere fake MNFers. And there's a lot of people on Twitter and things saying, oh, are his parents mad he missed, you know, or whatever these things are. They're talking about how they're bummed that the kid missed, all these things, right? These Trump-hating people. And those people are better than Joe Biden and the rest of these news people, all these people saying, you know, they're going to read a post from Trump saying God saved his life, and I'll get into that too, which is just complete bullshit because, you know, Trump is one of the biggest victims. He's always talking about being victimized and how everyone's out to get him, and he's such a prick and such a bad person. You know, I talked about how years ago when I was in Vegas, I was in India with my family, and I got divorced and, you know, split up from my ex, and then my kids and I returned from India after 3 years, and I was living near Vegas for a year. And there was a barber I went to, Republican guy, had Fox News on all the time, was voting for Trump. And he said, you know, he was voting for Trump, but everyone he had talked to, like he knew all these people. Like he'd been cutting hair in Vegas for like 20, 30 years. He owned a barbershop. And all these vendors who worked for the Trump Tower in Vegas talked about how Trump would stiff them and renegotiate, you know, make a deal with these guys and then try to pay them less or screw them out of money because Trump's a prick. He's always doing stuff like that, right? You know, hardworking people, you know, people are just making ends meet and Trump would screw them over because he's a prick, right? And he's a little whiny baby victim. And so don't bring God into it, bro. Like I'll say this stuff again when we watch the video. But they're reading his True Social posts all of a sudden instead of mocking them and talking about how evil Trump was and talking about how this kid is disturbed, right? Now, based in everything that they've put out, I've been watching the coverage of Trump now for 8 years, and they're talking about Trump like he's some devil. You know, he's a selfish prick, right? He's not, you know, there's a lot of selfish pricks out there. He just happens to be, you know, the next president and a, you know, famous reality TV star. But, you know, Trump is narcissistic and selfish like so many other people. He's certainly not the devil, and he isn't any worse than Joe Biden. But they talked about him like he was going to, I mean, they're saying democracy is on the line, that Trump will become a dictator and be like a Hitler, right? They're comparing him to like Hitler. And if you're going to compare somebody to like Hitler, then if somebody goes out and tries to kill him, don't call that person disturbed. Because if that person, a 20-year-old kid, is watching the news and listening to all these other people talk about Trump, and is around people who hate him like, the way that people hate him, and this is a totally reasonable thing for him to do. I'm not saying I approve of it. I'm just saying it isn't crazy. Like, it isn't something that's like this kid's disturbed. It's effed up what he would have done. I mean, I don't believe in the official story anyway. I'm just saying in terms of this stuff, right? And Joe Biden coming out saying he wishes Trump well. Come on, bro. Like, you hate the guy, right? All you talk about him, you're obsessed with him. And you're talking about him like he's some kind of evil villain. And, if there's heroes and villains, and Trump thinks he's a hero and you think you're a hero, and Trump thinks you're a villain and you think Trump's a villain. And so, this is like, what are you guys playing, fucking patty cakes, right? I mean, the way that America kills people, right? Joe Biden droned kids. I'll get into that. I'll bring that up when we see his video, right? But all this kind of stuff, I've talked about this before. There's a time in my life where I was angry like all the time. Somewhere in my teens, I became angry all the way through my early 20s. And, into my late 20s, I started doing the Sajmarg meditation that comes with a spiritual cleaning. And, and eventually just, the cleaning process just worked. And, like, I barely feel angry anymore. I don't feel fear very much. Like, there's natural fear and natural anger that just arises, but I don't feel hatred. I used to feel hatred all the time. I used to just, like, hate people, right? And, my dad and, like, family, but, other people. And I don't feel that way anymore, which is, and I've learned one of the great Sajmarg teachings is that hatred is your hatred. Hatred isn't, the person you hate is the object of your hate, but the hate itself is in you. If you remove the hate, then you don't hate people. You remove the anger, you're not angry, right? You remove the fear. And then what remains? Then you get down to your purest quality, which is the essence of love, which is what your soul is, right? And so the divinity within you. You strip away all the other conditions, all the other emotions and feelings and, whatever it is, mental configurations that you have. You strip away all that stuff and you get down to the bare root of it. And you're, the divine essence that manifested your physical body and your life here. That's what people have, right? And, the Sajmarg system is something, the gratefulness meditation that we do, some of us, it reveals that just by checking the box and doing these things, right? But, in terms of this kind of stuff, there are people who, like, we're not cool. Like, I'm not cool with them. My ex-wife, the guy who wrecked Sajmarg, Dodgy, turned it into a cult, and all the cronies around him. There's other people in my life I'm not, I wouldn't be bummed if they died. But I don't wish for things like that. Like, it's between them and God, right? Like, I don't wish for bad things to happen to people. Because, it's none of my business, right? It's like between them and God. Like, if there's something that, was like a kind of a conflict that I would have and, whatever with somebody, that's something else, right? Where there has to be some kind of resolution to that conflict. But in terms of, like, all these things where people die or not, I don't root for things like that. Bad things happen to people because it's not my job, and I believe in the divine system. I believe everything's accounted for in the divine system, right? But in terms of when somebody like this dies, like I was saying, Trump, I would like to see Trump disappear. I don't wish that anybody kill him, but if he, whatever happens, if he died, I'm not going to be bummed. After he did the Operation Warp Speed, certainly with Biden, the mandates, Fauci, these people, right? I'm not wishing for them to die. But if they die, I'm not going to be bummed. I'm going to be happy about it, right? Not like I'm not going to celebrate. I'm not going to, I mean, it's not going to be a big deal, but it's, it's somebody who's got negative energy. And, in terms of my understanding of what they've contributed to the world, it's, they made the world a worse place. There's lots of people that make the world a worse place, right? And some people do it, Bill Gates, these other people. And so, I'm not rooting for their demise or their suffering and things like this. But I'm not going to be bummed out if they suffer or they're, I'm not going to, it's dishonest, right? It's people that I don't respect and don't like and I think are bad people. And if, whatever happens to them, everyone goes through stuff, right? And when they go through stuff and again, I'm not celebrating in the sense of like having a party, but I'm not bummed, right? You know, and I'm going to be honest about it. I'm going to pretend like we're cool. I'm not going to call them up and say, you know, hey, Bill, you know, right? Hey, Joe Biden, how you doing? You know, I'm sorry to hear it. You know, like it's just stupid. It's silly, right? You don't like the people, and you know when they suffer and whatever, you feel like they deserve it, right? And for Trump, everyone's talking about how evil Trump is and what a disaster it'll be if he's president, and someone, you know, tries to stop that from happening. You know, that's logical. You know, he's wrong, he's a weird kid, whatever. I mean, if the official story is true, which I don't believe it is. But, you know, the way that they're being on the news and all this stuff, like, you know, just stop it, right? You hate Trump. Just be, you know, it's freaking, you know, like be a human being and just admit you hate the guy. Admit that you're sorry the kid missed, right? Like all the rest of these, you know, evil MNFers. And they're all evil because of, you know, dishonest, right? Going in the wrong direction. Just like the Trumpers are. And so, you know, let's get into these videos here because you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's my video on Trump, Dementia Gate on hold. But Dementia Gate on hold, Trump just got his ear pierced. I'm very proud of that title. It's already got 6,000 views, which is good. And you can see here, it has, look, most of my other videos, 99% likes, 83% likes, 100% likes here. Only 230 views, so whatever that one was. But 94% likes, 45 dislikes because of Trumpers. There's 45 disgruntled Trumpers who can't deal with that Trump just played himself. One of my viewers left a comment saying Trump just jumped the shark, which was a great, I thought that was a, you know, a great observation. It felt like a jump the shark moment because it's so fake. It was so effing fake, and if you call yourself a truther, you got to say what Trump just did with this thing. It's just goofy, right? It's like embarrassing. So let's start here with this one.
Kristen, we are hearing from the former president just in the last couple of minutes since we've been speaking here. What's he saying?
Willie, you're right. He's been posting on his Truth Social account. Here's
No way. They're reading Truth Social post. Like, this is Today Show. And then, you know, these MSNBC and NBC have been the worst for Trump. They're the most they're the most, you know, they have the most Trump derangement syndrome of any network. And now they're going to read one of his posts because, you know, he got shot in the ear. You know?
Latest post, it came in just moments ago. Thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday. It was God alone, he said, who prevented the unthinkable from happening.
This photo here, right? This is staged, right? Look at this thing. You got this dude here, you know, trying to get him out of there. Him putting his head up, and them allowing him to come up and be in this photo op with a flag. How's that flag get there? You know, someone holding a flag over him. Like they didn't plan this. You don't think this was planned? Like this little frickin' tomato, some ketchup on his face. These frickin' guys behind him. Like you don't think? Look at this. Look at this BS MNFer, right? Look at this. This like you think this is real? And him saying God alone? No, like it was scripted this way. Did God write the script? Like this? Why would the Secret Service not assume that there's a second shooter? And they would allow this guy to parade around, putting his hand up and fist up and all these things, right? Let me see if I can find that video of the way he cowered in 2016. He's not a physical guy. He's not one of those daredevil types, right? He's not somebody who goes to do personal risk. And I'm not saying I care about that, you know, but he's not one of those guys. He's not one of those tough guy kind of people. And he's trying, you know, holding his fist up, pumping his fist. You know, he does that dance where he's, you know, there's like a, see if I can find a Trump dance thing here. He does this dance like he's got a couple of strings on his hoodie, right? There's this thing, like strings on his hoodie, and he's pulling them back and forth. Like he's got a hoodie on, and he's got a couple of strings. There he goes, do it. Do your fist dance. He does a little clapping. This thing, he's, you know, they're playing the thing. Do the dance. Come on, Trump, do it. Do the fist and the thing. Do the fist and the string. Come on, Trump. You know, point to people, point to, hey, you. There we go. Boom. Do that thing. Do that thing. Yeah, do that look. There you go. He's like the second coming of Jesus, this guy. He's a savior. Okay, I couldn't find the event. I don't know, this now with I did a time search, but there's an event where something happened on the stage and Secret Service came in, he cowered and he ducked and all these things. I showed it before, and it's completely different than this reaction. Doesn't look real, but for him to bring God into it and say that it was God alone who saved him, he's a victim. He always plays the victim. He talks about how he's always being persecuted. That all comes from God too, right? All the criminal cases and, his behavior towards people. He just absolutely sucks. And then MSNBC talking about his tweet.
We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness. Our love goes out to the other victims and their families. We pray for the recovery of those who were wounded and hold in our hearts the memory of
It's a group. Let's have a group hug.
The citizen who was so horribly killed. In this moment, it is more important than ever that we stand united and show our true character as Americans, remaining strong and determined and not allowing evil to win. I truly love our country.
Okay, so what's evil? What was evil here? What was evil here? Like the kid that...
Country.
Do you believe in the official story?
And love you all and look forward to speaking to our great nation this week from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
A little bit of the preview of the tone that we might hear from.
Okay, just stop, right? You're pathetic. You guys, you hate the guy and you think he's going to be a dictator. And just go with that. Stop playing. Okay. Republicans accuse Biden of inciting Trump's shooting. And it says here, Biden said, I have one job, and that's to beat Donald Trump. I'm absolutely certain I'm the best person to be able to do that. So we're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye. Now, if that had been Trump, remember the big event in January. And again, not a Trumper. Trump sucks. But remember, all the things that Trump said to incite the crowd that ended up becoming the big event in January, and how much they blame Trump for all that. And this is the exact same behavior. And, it's an unfortunate word choice because of what's happened now. So here's Jojo Magoo about to address the nation. Here he
I'm
comes.
going to interrupt you. I'm so sorry, but President Biden is out with
Yeah, you
his vice
suck,
president.
buddy. It's just Biden's out, and he's senile and sucks, and we want to choose him over you.
President Kamala Harris and
There
the
it
Attorney
is.
General Eric Garland, including
That
Secretary
guy.
Mayorkas, the head of
That
DHS, who's in
motherfucker.
charge of Secret Service. Let's listen.
I'm sincerely grateful that he's doing well and recovering,
Are you really, though?
and we had a short but good conversation.
Do you say go F yourself? Do you say you put a bullseye on my back?
We are keeping him and his family in our prayers.
You pray to who? Satan?
We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victim who was killed. He was a father.
What about those kids you droned? Remember you droned 7 or 8 kids in Afghanistan? 8 kids in Afghanistan? And remember that? You pretended there was a thing called ISIS-K, and you droned a bunch of civilians. You killed 14 civilians, 8 of those kids. 20,000 Israeli kids dead. What about the condolences for those people, right? Okay, so I started this last night. I got interrupted and I had to stop. And I'm glad it happened because it just got really, really goofy. Apparently, Jojo Magoo and Trump are friends now because Trump got his ear pierced. And they're both trying to unite the country.
Look, Vice President Harris and I were just briefed in the Situation Room by my Homeland Security team.
Homeboy?
Including the Director of the FBI, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Attorney General, the Director of the Secret Service, my Homeland Security Advisor, the National Security Advisor, and we're going to continue to be briefed. The FBI is leading this investigation, which is still in its early stages.
It's early stages. We don't know what's going on.
We don't yet have any information about the motive of the shooter.
We don't know anything about the motive. Okay, it was just, he was having a bad day and he built a bomb and crawled up on a roof, grabbed his dad's AR-15 like rifle and started shooting at the president, former president.
Who he is. I urge everyone, please, don't make assumptions about his motives or his affiliations.
Okay, so it's already happened. Wait, do you not understand how the internet works? You still think it's like the teletype or how people are, the nature of people? and gossiping and making assumptions. It's already happened, right? We saw Christine Ohm saying all these things, right? Just, are you serious? Right? Are you serious? Bro.
Let the FBI do their job.
Yeah, everyone trusts the FBI, especially Trumpers. Trumpers trust the FBI more than any other institution.
And their partner agencies do their job. I'm instructed that this investigation be thorough and swift, and the investigators will have every resource they need to get this done. Look, as this investigation continues, here's what we're going to do.
What are we going to do, Jojo Magoo?
First,
take your cognitive test. Take a cognitive test?
Mr. Trump, as a former president and nominee of the Republican Party, already receives a heightened level of security.
What's going to happen now?
And I've been consistent in my direction of the Secret Service to provide him with every resource, capability.
Every resource and capability.
Protective measure.
What about RFK Jr.? What about him? Is he going to get Secret Service?
Necessary to ensure his continued safety. Second, I've directed the head of the Secret Service to review all security measures for the Republican National Convention, which is scheduled to start tomorrow. And third,
what's the third thing?
Directed an independent review of the national security at yesterday's rally to assess exactly what happened.
What happened? What did happen? Did Trump get his earshot?
And we'll share the results of that independent review with the American people.
Boom, kaboom. That's going to happen, all of it. Boom, ba-boom, ba-boom.
Finally.
Oh, wait, there's a finally.
More about this tonight at greater length from the Oval Office.
He's in the Oval Office.
We must unite as one nation. We must unite as one nation to demonstrate who we are.
We're uniters. We got to reunite under Trump's ear. It's a magic earshot. The earshot heard around the world. It's a uniting ear. Trump has a uniting ear.
And so may God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you very much.
Mr. President,
Woo!
when you spoke to President Trump yesterday...
Shuffle out of there. Do you have Parkinson's? You have Parkinson's? What about Kamala? Kamala's like, hey, wait, what does this mean for me? This sounds like this thing's not going to work out for me all of a sudden. Okay, so then he gives a second speech, this third speech, because this is the third one he's given on this. He's got the Crip Keeper mullet here, rocking the bald. But he's going to give a third speech. But let's read about Trump's interview. This is the Oval Office. This is the Oval Office speech. We'll sell this in a second. Both of them are calling to be great uniters. This is some guy named Matt Wallace. My wife sent me this. I'm not sure who it is. I think he's Republican. Anyways, this interview President Trump just gave me chills. Former President Trump has completely rewritten his convention speech in light of the assassination attempt against him on Saturday and will call on Thursday for a new effort of national unity. They're both saying being great uniters. It's an exclusive interview with the Washington Examiner a day after being hit by a sniper's bullet. Trump said he wanted to take advantage of the historic moment and draw the country together. The speech I was going to give on Thursday was going to be a humdinger. Had this not happened, this would have been one of the most incredible speeches aimed at the policies of President Joe Biden. Honestly, it's going to be a whole different speech now. He has switched, he said, from planning to excite his voters base to one that demonstrates his belief that the attack on him at the rally in Pennsylvania had changed the election campaign entirely. Both Republicans and Democrats acknowledge that this is the aftermath of Saturday's shocking incident. Trump said that people across the country from different walks of life and different political views have called him, and he had noted that he was saved from death because he turned from the crowd to look at the screen showing data he was using in his speech. I thought God saved you. The reality is just setting in. I rarely look away from the crowd. Had I not done that in that moment, well, we would not be talking today, would we? Talking as he boarded the plane in Bedminster, New Jersey for Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the Republican National Convention starts Monday and lasts through Thursday. Trump said his speech will meet the moment that history demands. It is a chance to bring the country together. I was given that chance. God alone who prevented this unthinkable from happening. That's all these things he said here. So the chance to bring the whole country, even the world, together, the speech will be a lot different than would have been 2 days ago. Ha ha, you guys. You guys got rolled here. You Trumpers. He's he's trumped you. Both of these guys have been saying that the other guy's the devil now for years. Now he can withdraw because his whole reason for running is he's got to beat Donald Trump at all costs. And so he no longer has to run that he's senile because Trump isn't so bad after all. Trump's no longer the devil because his ear got shot. Okay, so this next piece I already did. It's Joe Biden's address from the Oval Office. And I already shot this earlier today. Not shot it. I taped it. And every once in a while, my ScreenFlow app, it basically turns off the volume. It must be using my mic, my handheld mic, for the video. It's it's usually when I talk for a long time between clips, but once in a while it just does it on its own. Like there's always glitch outs with computers. I'm actually glad that it did. A bunch of things happened. I got 10 video clips to show you and a bunch of things coming up. I had a big day today, just a lot of stuff going on in terms of farm work and other things. And it's kind of a chaotic time personally. And I really want to get this second video done and, all of it. So before I get into this Biden Oval Office speech in which he, you can't mess these things up. And he has two major gaffes. And then he mispronounced a number of other words. And he, epic failed. And nobody's talking about it. And so that's where we are right now with the Trump thing. Biden's going to be the other candidate. Looks like his thing, is now done. Trump, everyone says, is going to win. And that is whatever it is. But I just want to say one thing. I realized this. I said these very words that I'm about to say to my wife. We were out doing something. And, I got home and I was looking at these comments. And there was a disgruntled, butthurt Trumper who was comparing me to the Cubies. And I regret I banned the person before taking a screenshot of the comment, but it's not really all that important. But he was saying that I jumped to conclusions like the Cubies because of, my saying that this thing's staged. This thing's fake as fuck, bro. And Trump is a crisis actor. And you eat that, Trumpers. It just suck on that for a little bit. President Trump, former President Trump, is a crisis actor. And, this guy was going to let you down. And he let you down when he did Operation Warp Speed, when he got worked at COVID, the way he handled the end of the 2020 election. He threw his supporters under the bus, the no malarkey bus. He threw them under the bus because that's what he do. And that's how Trump rolls. That's what Trump does. That's who Trump is, right? And at some point, you're going to have to realize it. There's no frickin', there's no Great Pumpkin. Let me roll the Great Pumpkin video here before I get into the Joe Biden thing. But just deal with it, right? This thing shows you what Trump is. And he's milking it for everything he's worth, right? And, it'd be easier for me, better for me if I told you Trumpers what you wanted to hear. My channel would do better. I'd make a lot more money if I pretended to be a Trumper I somehow repressed my gag reflex and pretended he rocked it. He's a patriot and he's a crisis actor, Ebbett Efforts. And you got to just deal with that. All right, let's do the Great Pumpkin thing here, and then I'll get into the Joe Biden thing.
Dear Great Pumpkin, I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night.
So first he takes a hit off the hopium pipe.
Pumpkin patch, and you'll see the Great Pumpkin with your own eyes.
And then he tries to get his bitch hooked on hopium.
Sitting in a pumpkin patch with a blockhead. You owe me restitution!
Then his bitch realizes she's in love with a hopium addict and she wants her Skittles. She's been cheated out of her Skittles. And now his sister, who sees that her hopium addict's brother is strung out on hopium, has to go and retrieve him from the pumpkin patch.
I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, too. Stupid? What do you mean, stupid?
You sat in a pumpkin patch all night long waiting for a pumpkin man to rescue you. It's high on hopium, and he never came. That's what we mean by stupid.
Just wait till next year, Charlie Brown. You'll see. Next year at this same time, I'll find a pumpkin patch that is real sincere.
But after all the evidence has been presented that Q, the great pumpkin, doesn't exist, is not going to save you, still in denial, lashing out, angry, waiting for the next hit off the hopium pipe.
I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics.
So look at this dent in his chin. This is really fake. And this, sometimes he makes an expression up here, it's really fake.
And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors.
What do you mean?
Neighbors. We're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're fellow Americans.
What do you mean you're not enemies? There are plenty of Americans who are enemies. We're in a civil war. There's been a civil war which you completely embraced. And, you know, it's just goofy, right? So many of the Democrats and liberals are out there saying they wish the bullet hit Trump. You know, as I said before, I did this already, and I did it right after I did the audio. So whatever. But to say that you're not enemies, come on, bro.
We must stand together. Yesterday's shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania calls on all of us to take a step back.
Take a step back. Take a step back.
Take stock of where we are.
Take stock of where we are.
How we go forward from here.
Where do we go forward?
Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke.
Okay, so did you hear what he just said here? Let me go back a few seconds here. So gratefully, former Trump is not seriously injured. He's not seriously injured. No, he said it. He's not seriously injured. Former Trump. I don't know what his name is now, but former Trump. So he's reading this. Like, this is a big deal. He's in the Oval Office. This is a speech that they broke into news coverage. Like, this is a big event, right? When the president comes out in the middle of a crisis, and they go right from the Oval Office, and there's all this, you know, this mandatory watching of this. All the news media is covering it. All the, the network TV this breaks into the network TV shows. And he comes out, he's supposed to nail this thing. You're not supposed to have any gaffes. Look at this Mr. Magoo MNFer here. You're not supposed to have any gaffes, right? And he says, gratefully, former Trump was not seriously injured. Like,
we are. How we go forward from here. Thankfully,
I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Thankfully,
former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke with him last night. I'm grateful. He's doing well, and Jill and I keep him and his family in our prayers.
I mean, it's amazing he's not seriously injured.
We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victims who was killed. Corey was a husband, a father, a volunteer firefighter, a hero, sheltering his family from those bullets. We should all hold his family and all those injured in our prayers.
What about the people that you killed, like you droned those kids? Or all the wars you voted for, all the military-industrial contracts that produce weapons that have hurt people, killed people. I mean, all the kids that have died at your hands. For 20,000, 25,000 kids in the Gaza Strip, or all the people in the Gaza Strip, innocent civilians. You know, what about those people? Like, sympathy for everybody, but, what about those people that you have a hand in their demise?
Earlier today, I spoke about an ongoing investigation. We do not know the motive of the shooter yet. We don't know his opinions or affiliations.
That's purposeful. This is one of the reasons, I'll get into this, why that is, right? There's no manifesto. There's a reason for it. And they're going to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about all that stuff. Like all the stuff I know about this. I haven't covered this stuff in years. But Trump's a crisis actor. He's involved. This whole thing's a sham. And there's a reason they're making this guy innocuous. Like he's just a blank page that you can all put your whatever fantasies or your point of view on.
We don't know whether he had help or support or if he communicated with anyone else. Law enforcement professionals, as I speak, are investigating those questions. Tonight, I want to speak to what we do know.
What do we know, Joe?
A former president was shot, an American citizen killed, while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We cannot, we must not go down this road in America.
We can't go down this road.
We've traveled it before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress.
It's going to be fake coming here.
Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
By his gay lover, who waited for the cops to get there to hit him with a hammer off camera.
Or information and intimidation on election officials, or the kidnapping plot against the sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever.
Okay, we're a violent nation. Just stop with this shit, right? Like we celebrate the military. There's violence, and I've gone through this before. We all agree we're a violent nation, right?
Period.
Period.
No exceptions.
No exceptions.
We can't allow this violence to be normalized.
We can't let it be normalized, even though it's been normalized in movies, TV shows, video games, everything else, in our language, right? Our aggressive language, me acting like a tough guy and screaming all the time.
You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down.
Time to cool it down.
We all have a responsibility to do that.
We have a responsibility to do it.
Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high.
They're high.
I've said it many times that the choice in this election we make in this election is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul.
With all of his soul, he believes that. Now, there's a lot here with all of his soul. But your soul doesn't give a shit about the election. Your soul has one thing that it is. Your soul is focusing on one thing, and that's reuniting with the source, going back to the source, right? Merging back into God. The part of you that's divine doesn't care about your little ego, doesn't care about your country, doesn't care about your patriotism, doesn't care about your party, it doesn't care about winning or losing, doesn't care about any of these things. Your joy, your happiness. Your soul has one function, and that is to return back to the source, to learn as much about God as it can, right? Through this process of living your life. And so him saying this is just stupid.
World for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul.
You don't believe with your soul.
I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well. And some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature.
Part of human nature.
But politics must never be a literal battlefield, and God forbid, a killing field.
God for what?
God forbid.
God forbid. God forbid.
Killing field.
So those are he's lots of gaffes here that are small gaffes.
I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution.
His hands are goofy.
We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency.
Extremism and what? Fury?
Not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. All of us now face a time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passions become.
Fervent.
This places an added burden on each of us to ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, we must never descend into violence. The Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record and the vision, my vision of the country, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy.
Minor gaffe. Again, he's reading. And he's supposed to nail this thing, right? This is a 6-minute and 48-second speech, and it's a big deal. And he should have nailed this thing, and this is nailing it for him.
Stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law. To call for action at the ballot box. No violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work.
That's how democracy should work.
We debate and disagree. We compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda, the vision for America. But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box. You know, that's how we do it at the battle box, not with
The battle box? Where's the battle box? Where's the battle box, Jojo Magoo?
bullets. The power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of a would-be assassin. You know, the path forward through a competing
Calling this little dude an assassin is quite a reach.
visions of the campaign should always be resolved peacefully, not through acts of violence. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America, think about it.
Okay, let's go back here. So that was a major gaffe, right? Let's break it down.
Violence. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being.
I believe that with every soul and every power of my being. Now, power or soul were not, you know, he butchered that, and I don't know how you work power or soul into that statement, right? But, you know, saying this is the greatest country, that's just whatever it is, right? We're not the, you know, I mean, we're not the most spiritual. We're not the most godly. Yeah, we're the richest for now. We're the one with the biggest military for now. But other than that, it ain't that great here, right? It's great to live here in terms of pleasures and comforts, right? But again, the goofiness with his soul, right? So he says that first part. Let's go back a little bit.
Country and earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America, think about it.
He was going to say, make America great again. And he butchered it.
Think about it. What's made America so special? Here in America, everyone must be treated with dignity.
So there's two major gaffes, right?
Respect. And hate must have no safe harbor. Here in America.
You guys have been campaigning on hate, the hatred of Trump for 10 years now, right? 8, 9 years.
We need to get out of our silos where we only listen.
I don't have a silo, bro. Neither does anybody else unless they're a farmer. And those not those kind of silos.
Those with whom we agree, where misinformation is rampant, where foreign actors fan the flames of our division to shape the outcomes consistent with their interests, not ours. Let's remember, here in America, while unity is the most elusive of goals right now, nothing is more important for us now than standing together. We can do this, you know?
All right, so he gets goofy. It just does his stuff at the end. But this is classic JoJo Magoo, right? Two major gaffes, underperformed the whole thing, weird hand gestures, weird facial expressions, and then just completely misrepresents everything that he's done the past so many years, right? And this idea that now, like, this is like they're going to sit down and sing Kumbaya, Donald, the crisis actor, and this guy with Parkinson's. this is what we're left with, right? Okay, I put all the gaffes together, the two major gaffes. There was 3 or 4 little ones, and he was shaky throughout. But let me put those together here.
Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke with him last night. I'm grateful. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America, think about it.
Okay, so I've been really busy, and it's been very crazy. You know, I got to talk about my birthday. It was a really great birthday in terms of accomplishments, and I feel really good. I'm really happy. All this stuff's going on. I got all these videos I'm trying to make. I'm not even working on my other channel now. I haven't done anything with a journey series. I mean, it's a whole thing, right? But I was making this video, and all these clips I'm about to show you up to the point where they start profiling this kid. All the video was just, you couldn't see the screen was blank. And so I did an update for Premiere Pro, which is what I make where I edit my videos, and luckily it restored it, but it was a really bummer of a moment. So I'm trying to rush this thing out here, and I got all these clips to edit. And while I was listening to it, I had all these comments, because this video got a lot of views and a lot of people are commenting. At the beginning of the video, there was a lot of disgruntled Trumpers, and I'm going to read some of their comments because Trump's in on it. Like, it's so obvious now. And only the delusional Trumpers are, you're not a truther, and I have to say stuff about it because you suck. But that's coming throughout the video, and then at the very end, I'll read the comments. But what I think I missed saying, I had to redo that clip too because there was a glitch out for this yesterday, was that he turned that into a political statement. So this was an official presidential address, and you're not supposed to campaign, and he campaigned at the end, which is not going to make a difference because, I mean, Trump right now is walking into the White House unless they change something, and they easily could. But this is the narrative right now. And, you know, they've left an open book here for the whole assassination, which I'll talk about. Okay, so today is Tuesday, July 16th. I want to get the video up today as quickly as possible, so I want to minimize the amount of stuff that I use from all these different videos. There's lots of them. I'm going to start out with the most recent ones. This came out this morning. Another one from Morning Joe that came out this morning. Then go, you know, back and forth through time as they are developing this narrative, right? And what we know about this kid is he's a registered Republican. I mean, this profile they've created. He's a registered Republican, and also he gave money to the Democrats. And the reason that's like the limited information they have about this kid. I'll get into the manifesto. I'll get into some of these other things as we go through this. The profiles they create. You know, I've been watching this for years. And this is a pattern. Like, I'm a dyslexic person, so I see patterns. And so this ghoul is Stephanie Ruhle, who's a former banker and Trump hater, but she's quite miffed about the Secret Service breakdown, as are so many other people, that the Secret Service completely failed. And that's one of the narratives I want to talk about. The ridiculousness of the shooter and the shot that he was supposedly taking. And, yeah. The other thing is that Trump's a crisis actor, and he's totally a part of it. And that's undeniable. Not for Trumpers, but everyone else. But let's start with Stephanie Ruhle.
Authorities are searching for answers after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. But the shooter's motive is still unclear. Our own Stephanie Gosk has the latest on what we know.
Stephanie Goss.
Grainy video shows the shooter, Thomas Crooks, moments before he fired an AR-15 style rifle at Donald Trump.
Okay, so there's no scope here, which is one of my viewers pointed out. Like, I asked this question, what kind of scope did he have on this thing? And the guy said he had open sights, which is, there's just the sights that come with the gun, right? So you can get like a laser pointer kind of thing, whatever that's called, where you can get a scope. And this is not an assassin's rifle, right? This is not, it's not a sniper's rifle, right? An AR-15. This isn't meant for that. Now listen to this part.
Someone's on top of the roof. Look.
He does not go unnoticed. According to two senior officials, local police officers saw Crooks on the rooftop, but couldn't stop him before he opened fire, injuring former President Trump. 50-year-old Corey Comparator, shielding his family from the gunfire, was killed. David Dutch and James Koppenhaver were critically wounded before a sniper team shot and killed.
So you see he has a scope. Look at his setup, right? Look at this guy's setup. And he has somebody here. You have to calculate for the wind. I'll get into this in a bit, right? But, this is where Trump is, and that's where they are. And so, and Trump is still standing up. This is before they shot, obviously.
Killed Crooks. Among the
So they were firing, look, immediately. Let's watch that again.
Corey Comparator, shielding his family from the gunfire, was killed. David Dutch and James Koppenhaver were critically wounded before a sniper team shot and killed.
So Trump is still up, and he's already fired a bullet, right? Trump isn't even down yet, and he's already fired. So that guy's fired on Trump, and Trump is now, look at Trump getting down now. So he fired before Trump was even on the ground, and that guy fired a variety of other shots. Maybe he missed that first shot.
Among the many unanswered questions tonight, how did the 20-year-old get on that rooftop, and why wasn't it better secured? He had a vantage point just 148 yards from...
Now that's not 140, that's a football field and a half. This is a ridiculous shot. Look at the dots here, right? So you ever see a quarterback throw the football 100 yards, throwing from his own end zone to the other end zone? You ever see that? You ever see some, accurate pass that a quarterback could hit, even a stationary target throwing the ball 100 yards? This is 150 yards. And when you're sitting on one end of the football stadium and you look across to the other end, you can barely see the people. Like, you can see them, but, you can't make out their faces. It's no detail. And so this kid had what appears to be no scope on what was not a sniper rifle. What was not something that was meant for some long-range accuracy, right? So Trump's going to come on later and say that he's lucky to be alive. That kid was no way going to make that shot, right? So if you see military snipers, they have to calculate for the wind, and they go in teams. They have a guy who's a supports person, and the wind's a factor. Like, if you play any kind of sports, and you play even golf, for example, if you shoot a basketball in the wind, you have to calculate for the wind, especially depending on how hard the wind's blowing, and the wind can change at any moment. You get gusts of wind and things like this, and so that's going to affect the bullet, right? And the accuracy of that kind of long-range shot is, for like an expert, you wouldn't take that shot, right? And certainly without a scope. Like, I've shot AR-15s. I'm not a gun person. Don't like them, but I've learned how to use them. And I've shot AR-15s with laser pointers, which are great, from, I would say 50, 100. You get out to just 100 feet, 1/3 of a football field. And it's, even experts. I've shot with, like, military personnel, people who have been, trained in firearms, right? And, it's the farther you get away from the target, unless you have a rifle with a scope. So a laser pointer, it's hard to see, and, these things as you move farther away. And AR-15s are for volume. They're a volume gun, right? They're not the same, a hunting rifle, which is for, long-range shooting with a scope on them, and you have the scope, precision, all these things, right? But without a scope, and it doesn't appear like he had a scope, but even with a scope, there's often movement when you pull the trigger. Like, it's hard to hold your gun stable. He's on a rooftop. The sun's baking that rooftop, right? This is a 20-year-old kid. This isn't a guy who was trained to be a military sniper. We'll get into the profile of the kid and what he looked like. Some nerdy kid. He was picked on, bullied. We'll, cover all that. He doesn't have a manifesto, though, and I'll get into that as well. They keep on saying, hey, there's no manifesto. And so I'll get into the profile of the kid. But in terms of him being able to hit Trump in the head from 148 yards out, which is a football field and a half, that's why they didn't have that place. Sure, there's people who could make that shot, but that's a difficult shot to make. There was a guy, he's an expert archer, crossbow. And I watched a video of his for some reason, I don't know, some years ago. And he was trying to pop a balloon with an arrow from 300 feet, and it was like considered, 100 yards. And he was talking about it being such a difficult shot. Of course, wind's a factor, even more so with arrows. But he ended up doing it after a number of tries, and this guy was some kind of an expert, and it's something where, like, he probably been doing it, God knows how many times before he got it, right? Because these things are hard to do. Like, this would be some miracle shot for him to get Trump, this 20-year-old kid who has, all of a sudden he's an expert. He said, has he killed somebody before, right? Because that's a factor. Murdering somebody. It's not something that you can just do, right? Like, people go through military training. The psychological abuse you take when you go through basic training. I had a couple friends in college that went through the Marine boot camp in Parris Island. You ever see the movie Full Metal Jacket? And my brother was a drill sergeant, and he went to Vietnam, and, they break you down and build you back up. It's a psychological program to get you to kill people. Like, it's not easy for people to kill people. Some people, of course, sociopaths. But the first time is going to be harder than other times, right? People get the, what do they call it, deer fever or whatever it is, where they get the shakes when they're about to shoot a deer. Like, there are times that you get shook or rattled or whatever it is, right? Like, you have a conscience, and, you're going to start shooting a gun, not only at the Trump, but there's other people there. And again, having no scope is the big part of this thing. If there was a scope on the rifle, I can't see it, and I look for a picture of the rifle. The official story, which we all know is bullshit, right? But the official story as far as I can tell, is that there was no scope. He's a 20-year-old kid, never killed anybody before. He's on a hot roof in a crowded event. And he's about to murder, not even just Trump, but other people. Like he's firing, bullets into a crowded area. And he's shot at like while Trump's still on his feet with a guy who has a scope. And why didn't that guy see him, right? Let's go back to that here.
Koppenhaver were critically wounded before a sniper team shot and killed Crooks.
Okay, so that he's already fired the gun and he's looking up. But you see this when you have a scope, the guy would be looking through his scope and looking for potential adversaries, right? And he would have seen that kid on the roof multiple times because people were seeing it from the ground. He has an elevated vantage point. He would have seen that kid for a while. Like the kid would have been seen for, he would have, had somebody, he's got a guy here. They're in communication. They would have been talking to somebody on the ground, said there's a kid on the roof. There's somebody on the roof with a gun. He would have seen the guy as a gun. They would have taken him out before. He has complete, he fired on the guy, right? So this guy, let's watch that again.
Sniper team shot and killed.
Okay, so this guy fired within seconds after the first bullet whizzed by Trump or whatever it is. Like, if there were bullets, right? Let's say the story is legitimate. This guy got the kid in his sights and fired on him. Like he just didn't take a random shot. Right after, like seconds, it took him seconds to zone in on the kid, to be able to see him through his scope. And so the whole thing is BS, right? Because Trump's still on his feet.
Crooks.
He fired 2 shots, or someone else fired a second shot, before Trump even made it to the ground, right? And so it's just silly. This is a long shot. The guy, didn't have a scope. Here's the snipers here, right? Why weren't they seeing him? They're here. They have snipers here, right? Why wasn't there somebody up here or up here? Because, somebody could make this shot. I mean, the shot could be made by someone professional. But again, it's not a guarantee. And if they wanted to take out Trump, they would have. See, this is something that they wanted you to see the whole mess. The Secret Service breakdown, I'll get into the whole thing. I'll explain the narrative here and why it had to go this way for this, whatever they want to happen, which is chaos, right? And we'll go through the chaos in a moment. There should be a sniper here, right? There should be snipers everywhere because they're not only looking for people on rooftops, but they're looking for people in the crowd, right? And there should have been multiple teams. They have one sniper team. I mean, maybe there's some people over here, but this is a good place to have a vantage point for people over here that might come in with something or whatever, right, around the perimeter. And so, like, the whole thing's just ridiculous, which we know. But this is a long shot for a nerdy kid who maybe has, we don't know what kind of experience he's had with his dad's AR-15, but as far as we know, it doesn't have a scope, and even if it had a scope, I mean, look, again, a shot that people can make. I mean, the AR-15 could make this shot, but it's not an easy shot, right? And, to graze his ear, it's just silly.
Service says the rooftop was outside of their security perimeter. Crook's father, who according to the
But they could have seen it, right? I mean, the snipers could see him. Like, people are pointing up and saying, hey, look at this guy over here. They don't see him. This guy's got a scope. They can see it, right? The guy was up and down. I mean, they show him he didn't stay in a stable position. And they were yelling for 90 seconds beforehand. People were yelling and saw the guy. He was, there's a video I think I have in here where they track the guy.
Was outside of their security perimeter. Crook's father, who according to the FBI has been cooperating with the investigation, legally purchased the rifle his son used. And NBC News has learned Crooks purchased ammunition at this store near his home just hours before the rally. Senior officials say more than a dozen firearms were found while searching the family's home. After the shooting,
So the son had access to a combination to a gun safe, or was just laying around in a closet? Like, was a kid show any signs of, like, being somebody you wouldn't want to have access to a firearms, right? I mean, just in general, and I don't know what kind of family it is, whatever. Again, it's not real. I'm talking about, like, this is a real thing. But, just...
They say his father called police, worried his son and an AR-style rifle were missing. Crooks graduated from community college and worked as a dietary aide at a nursing home. He was
Sounds like a real, he looks like a real murderer, right?
also a member of a shooting club at a firing range.
He was just a normal kid to me, walking around the neighborhood. I mean, he was just a bit odd, that's all.
But authorities still have not identified a motive, even after analyzing Crooks's cell phone, according to a senior law enforcement.
There doesn't appear to be a scope here, right? This makes it a little confusing, but he's looking here. They've blurred out the photo, but there doesn't appear to be a scope. So he's using the sights that are on the gun. And again, I mean, he's got to be, Trump has got a big orange head, but that's a long way. I mean, just think about looking at something that's a football field and a half away, and, it's a dot, and there's all these other people with hats and colors and things like this, and, limited eyesight. He's wearing glasses. I mean, it's just not that easy. Like, a scope is hard enough, like, to make an accurate shot from that distance, especially for someone who's, like, not a trained sniper. And so, this is silly. I mean, and they didn't see this guy, right? They can see him with a scope because they're over here and they have a scope and they're looking for shit like that, right? There's only a couple buildings where somebody could be, and they didn't see this guy was up there for a while. He climbed up on the roof. He was visible to them. He would have been visible to them with the naked eye. And then also, in terms of a scope, they would have seen a guy crawling up on the roof with a rifle. I mean, the whole story is ridiculous, right? But it's not, there's easier ways they could kill Trump. If they wanted Trump dead, they'd kill him other ways. Okay, so let me just speak to that here. And I'll get into the Trump comments here. I was going to save them for the end of the video. But let's do that because I'm going to show you how I have an understanding how they run these profiles, which you should too. It's so obvious, the profiles they create for these guys. And that's important to the final analysis here. But the first part here, if they wanted Trump dead, they have different, the way they formulate these events, right? The way they put them together and controlling every aspect about them. There's so many moving parts, so many people present at something like this, right? Thousands of people at a Trump rally. There's so many moving pieces. So to get the desired effect and control the narrative, they need to control as much as possible, right? And so, like, if you look at an event, you look at the timing of this event, that's playing right before the Republican convention, and it locks Jojo Magoo into his candidacy at least for another week. Like, Magoo could come out and shit all over Trump's his inauguration by coming out and handing it over to Kamala, right? The Republican convention would get no views, would get no love if Jojo Magoo stepped down, and all the attention would go to the transition of Kamala. And so they could really undercut the convention. But now, with Trump being shot, it's undercut the whole thing with Jojo Magoo being senile. And it's harder for him to get him out of there because no one's paying attention to that right now. He did this disastrous interview with Lester Holt, and I'll show you a clip of it that I saw, and hopefully I can find the other clip. I saw 2 clips, and it's even worse than the George Stephanopoulos one. It's on par with the debate performance, but no one's paying attention to it, right? And so, when you make an event like this happen 2 days before the convention, and he's just announced as vice president, and all these things, and all this momentum's going into Trump, and everyone's saying Trump is a shoo-in to get elected, like at least right now, right? And so this is the kind of thing that this kind of event would deliver. And Trump having blood on his ear, Donald Trump having blood on his ear, and all the other aspects of it. So what if he just died of a heart attack or died in his sleep? I mean, people would be saying, oh, it's because of the, the bloop, right, or whatever. It would not be nearly, or there's, some sort of attempt on his life, and you didn't get to see it. There was no Trump raising his fist. There was no, there was not on camera. It wasn't in front of a crowd. Trump, leaving with his fist pumped in the air, held in the air, and all these things. We'll get into that in a bit, too, how ridiculous that is, because even Morning Joe's calling bullshit on that, right? And so, the failure, the so-called failure of the Secret Service to act, because it's a B movie, which I'll show you. I'm going to say that again in a little bit here. I'm editing here. I'm adding this voiceover. And so you have to understand that when this attempt was done at this type of event, and it's a really hard shot, an impossible shot for this kid. And, the official story. Why would they do that when they have all these other ways of killing people? We know the CIA has had heart attack guns since like the 70s or the 50s, right? There was this testimony in front of the Supreme Court where this guy says that they have this dart that fires like frozen dart and it evaporates. It like goes into your body and melts. And there's just a little mark on your skin that nobody could, say it was the dart. It was just, and it causes a person to have a heart attack within a half hour. The CIA had that technology, years and years ago, 75 years ago, or whatever it was. You can see the video. It's out there. You can find it. And that's just one of many things that they could do. There's all kinds of ways to get rid of Trump. If they wanted Trump dead, he'd be dead. And they don't have to assassinate him, right? Assassinating RFK Jr. and Bobby Kennedy in front of people the way they did, they were sending a message, right? Like a lot of the movements just died. People became deflated. They wanted to shut down the whole liberal movement that was happening. This was back when the conservatives ran the country, and they shut down all that liberal crap and all that stuff. And it wasn't crap back then. It was legitimate. But there was, with the Vietnam War and the assassination of Kennedy, there's just, all these boomer hippies, they just lost their will to live, all these things, and they turn into these corporate shills now, and they realize that the real power was to have money power, and now they all are using that money power to push their now distorted liberal agenda. But again, they could have assassinated Kennedy. There's lots of times Kennedy wasn't in public, and he didn't have, he wasn't going down the street the way he was going down the street in a parade that was being televised, right? And all the cameras were on all these things. And so they could have done it in a way that wasn't as nearly as like sexy, right? It's not nearly as, glamorous as this thing, where the Trump thing was like that. They could have done it in a much more subtle way, in a less, seeing the event or just hearing about it. Because when you see it, it becomes more real. I've said this over and over again. They could kill Trump if they wanted, and they could put him in jail and just disappear him, but they don't want to disappear him. Why would they disappear their primary asset? Trump is their major asset. You know why? You can tell. Because that's all they talk about. That's all they talk about. 90% of the liberal news is about Trump. Biden's whole campaign is about Trump. Trump is the center of this whole movement that's been going on now for the past 8 years. Everything that they're trying to push through, all their agenda, Trump is the big distraction. Trump is sucking up all the oxygen. Trump is shielding them from the attention they don't want. Trump is just out there, right? Trump is everything. Trump is their biggest asset. Why would they get rid of their biggest asset? And so it looks like they want him elected again to maximize that. And I've said this before, what would they do without Trump? What would they talk about? They don't have their own policies. The Democratic Party doesn't have anything but let's do things opposite of what Trump does, right? And then they have their agenda and their social stuff, like the gender thing and all these things that they're pushing out there. And all that is made possible by Trump. Just understand that. You should be able to understand that. That he's not the enemy. He's not going to turn things upside down. He's controlled. He's owned. He's owned by Israel. He's owned by the banks. He's owned by Wall Street. He has handlers. And he doesn't care about you. He's a liar. He's selfish. He's not out there. Like him saying the stupid statement, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in their way. He's not standing in the way. He's not protecting you. Let's be serious. Like, grow up, right? Let's read a few of these stupid comments. They're going to play that. I think I have that somewhere coming up, that soundbite of him saying that, but I've talked about this before. If you think this was a fake, you are a complete idiot. That's comment number 1. These are all Trumpers. You weirdos think everything is fake. Well, everything that's on TV is controlled for some way or another because it's part of an agenda. Like they don't have a lot of wiggle room or freedom for, all these things. Sure, you can say the whole thing was staged and choreographed, but it really happened. Change Man got, here, let me make this bigger. I'm having trouble seeing this. Orange Man got shot and 2 people are dead. Another severely injured. And if you say that witnesses are actors, well, maybe you're fake and not a real person as well. Well, all these things are subjective to whether you believe what's a video is in a video or not, right? Like, there's things that, maybe people got shot. Maybe they're shot people. Like, I'm not saying that maybe that, I don't know whether that happened or not. I don't know whether bullets were fired or not. I don't. But I know that Trump was in on this thing. Like, this was, whatever was happening here. The Secret Service is a joke, and we'll get into that. We'll show that in a second here. And even, like, Morning Joe's talking about that. The Secret Service failure. Time to pick up your refill of your TDS medication, Paul. Trump derangement syndrome. I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I am not delusional and a member of the Trump cult like all you guys, right? And the problem is, and most of the people watching my video agreed with me, but the problem for you guys is this. Like, I'm a smart guy, and I don't have a cause. I talk about divinity finding the divinity within yourself. And some of you guys pick up on it, some of you don't, and I don't care if you do. There's going to be depopulation. I don't need all you dopes around. I do for this society, right? We all do, right? We all need dopes. We all, we need all the people to keep the system going. But when there's population reduction, there's going to be some people that make it back and some people that don't. In terms of incarnation here, I've talked about this. There's going to be, when you reduce the population by 700 or 800%, there's going to be only a billion people instead of 8 billion. Then 1 out of 8 people isn't coming back here in terms of a future life on Earth. And I don't know where you're going to go, but it ain't be here, and you'll be, regressed in some way, right? So there's an actual competition. Like, some people aren't going to make the cut. Like, maybe I won't make the cut, right? Only the higher developed souls and the ones that could help participate in rebuilding and a redemption movement of what we've done here and going off course are going to be allowed to incarnate. That'll keep the evil from, being on this planet, right? Deviant souls that aren't willing to serve God, right? So, like, that's, that makes sense if you think about it in that way. That there is an order to things. And I say this, if you believe in God, you believe in a plan, if you have a soul, then, you didn't randomly just be born into your current circumstances. Your soul picked your situation, and there's a script for your life that your soul, that you deviate from, but your soul wants you to adhere to. But anyways, like, I talk about stuff like that, right? Very few people pick up on that. And other than that, I don't care. Like, I don't care what happens here. Like, it's all, a mess until the system collapses. There's no saving the system. I've said this over and over again. I don't care. I liked Trump as a president, as a character. He was my favorite president up until he failed on COVID. And then he became just annoying and pathetic. He just became a pathetic ball of mush, caving and getting worked on COVID, on the election, rolling out Operation Warp Speed. And everyone should have bailed on him then. All you Trumpers. You should have realized he was, screwing you over, but you didn't. And so it would be better for me if I just told you Trumpers what you wanted to hear, because there's a lot more Trumpers than there are people who believe in the left-right paradigm. My audience would be, and it's easy to cater to you guys because I know how dopey you are. I know how easy it is to get you to, I could get, millions of Trumpers to watch my videos. I could be a pro-Trump person talking about this pro-Trump crap. I get way more views. I'd be far richer. And I wouldn't be censored because YouTube would be fine with what I'd be saying because they want this stuff, to whatever degree, right? All these pro-Trumpers say they're being censored, but only the goofy ones, like the stupid ones. And I could, I could be much more successful. Or I could, be a Biden person. Or whatever it is. I could be more mainstream. I could pick one side of the other of the left-right paradigm, and I could just, make lots of money and be famous and all these things, but I'm not about that, which you guys should appreciate, right? And so, I got to tell you the truth, at least the truth that I understand as I understand it. And it's a lot more accurate than what you guys are thinking or believing because you guys suck at it. Because you guys are refusing to believe what's right in front of your eyes. And I went through this personally. Like, I could say this stuff because, I do this Sajmarg meditation, which was a transformative system and a system I wholeheartedly believe is here to redeem humanity, and it's the solution to all our problems. It helps people to connect to the divinity within them. And I knew this guy, Kamlesh Patel, who took over for the previous master, Master Charji, who was a man who served God. And somebody with impeccable character, right? But this guy, Dodgy, turned in to be a fraud, and it sucked for me. And you guys who watched my Journey series and saw this, me live through this, but I couldn't deny the truth. And it was painful for me. And, I'd known this guy, and, I talked about heartfulness being, it turned into a cult, but I talked about it being something, people tried the system, and, I talked about all these things for years. And I had to accept what happened, right? And, that's just one example. Like sometimes you're people you look up to, people that, you believed in fail, or you get duped or whatever. And you guys got duped by Trump, and you just don't want to admit it. All of us can see it, and you just look like fools to us. Because it's so easy to see. You're so blinded by your desire, your hopium. So here's a long comment here, right? Listen to you for many years. Love most of your content, and your perspective has always been of great value to me. But this? Trump survived an assassination attempt by the grace of God. One fraction of an inch, head tilt in the wrong way, and would have been over. This is the former president of the country you live in, your former president, whether you think so or not, a human being who's regarded to be a leader of millions of hopeful Americans. And all you can do is muster as a response is this JD talk about how you received it to be staged. Honestly, it sounds to me like you have to snap out of some sort of snooze or something. I'll be watching your content again when and if you do. But for now, goodbye. Get out of here, you dope, right? You're not welcome here. No dopes allowed, right? This is your dope-free zone. I mean, you can be a dope. You just got to realize you're a dope and look to, better. We all go through dopey periods, but come on. From Fred Sanford, right? Where he called his son a dummy. You're a dummy. Trump is as selfish a person that exists in the world. Trump is amazingly selfish, and he is brutal to people around him. He turns on them in a heartbeat because he perceives them. Sometimes they've been loyal to him for years. He's a prick. He's not a good guy. Like, he's got a better heart than Joe Biden and some of these other people. Like, he didn't like the wars. He has some things going for him, buried inside that narcissism. Like, he just, the one good thing that Trump did is he didn't do more of these wars. But he's their asset. If you can't see it, I can't help you. He's their asset. He's their primary asset. And you guys are just dopes that fall in for anything he says. Another person wrote unsubscribed. And so those are the comments. But you got to understand that the rest of us can see it, that Trump is completely controlled, that he has done so much damage to everything, from the truth community to, the media, to social media, to the, pushing all their agenda they were able to push through because of the hatred of Trump. He's a major distraction, and he keeps you guys from realizing the truth, which is you're fucked and the system's collapsing. And your hatred of the liberals and the division, their hatred of you and Trump, the Trumpers and Trump, is just going to expedite this thing and cause all-out chaos. And it's a disaster. So let's get into the illegitimacy of the Secret Service and their failure here, and then the profile of this kid that the intelligence community created. Okay, so let's watch this here.
Joe, as we've been reporting the last couple of days, the shooter here, a registered Republican, but also someone who gave $15 when he was 17 years old.
I've heard that maybe 200 times. It's in a bunch of these videos. I won't show you every time they say it, but I've watched a number of videos I'm not showing you. I've watched things on CNN, on TV, and they've said this over and over again. They also talk about he doesn't have a manifesto. I'll show you a little clip of that. But this is Morning Joe that got yanked yesterday, because Morning Joe, they're the most pro-Biden, most hating Trump of any news people out there. And MSNBC is worse than CNN. And they're calling bullshit, right? So Stephanie Rule, who hates Trump, is a real Trump hater. And the Morning Joe team, they're calling BS. And they're all throwing the Secret Service under the bus, and that's not an accident. Because
a progressive group that gets voter turnout for Democrats, so everyone's sort of able to ascribe their...
That doesn't happen. That shouldn't happen. This head should not be exposed, right?
their priors and their own theories to that using those two truths.
I guess, yeah. I just seen the video.
It's hard to.
It's hard.
I keep getting.
She's so bummed. They realize Trump's going to be president. Look at Mika. Look at Mika.
Being shocked by it.
It's shocking. We may not know the why for some time, but Tom, the question I have is how? How did the Secret Service allow someone to have a straight line of sight to a former president who may be the next president, that an AR-15 could reach when the Secret Service and law enforcement obviously knows? An AR-15, as we've reported time and time again.
Okay, so their shot is 130 yards, and this is, whatever it is, right? And so it's not a matter of a bullet reaching or somebody firing it the way it's supposed to be fired at a target accurately. It's being able to execute that situation, right? So when you play sports, why is it harder to shoot a three-point basket than a layup? Well, because you're closer, and there is an angle of deviation, right? And so if you shoot the perfect shot, it'll go in from anywhere, because you are shooting for a straight line. You throw a perfect pass, shoot whatever you do, you throw a perfect pitch or whatever it is, it goes exactly where you want it to go. There's no deviation. It's perfect, right? But pretty much everything has some deviation in. And the angle of deviation, like this is geometry, is the farther you're away from something, the more that angle is gonna, if it's like 0.1 degrees of deviation, maybe that's an inch or two in 100 feet. But maybe it's 3 inches and, whatever it is, like 300 feet, right? Or whatever it is, like, whatever the deviation, the angle of the deviation is. It's going to deviate from your intended target because you've misfired. You've shot something with a slight, it's completely not accurate. And that's if your scope and everything is set correctly. Your scope doesn't have to be 100% accurate in terms of where the barrel of the gun is. And so the farther you're away, the more any kind of an error in the shot and the wind will affect it. And so this is a long shot, right? I mean, there should have been somebody here, and there are people, we'll get into people warning all this stuff that happened, right? And so, just a ridiculous thing.
Through the years is the weapon of choice of disturbed young men.
Again, the profile, it's the weapon of choice of disturbed young men. It's a profile, because they were trying to get rid of the AR-15s. We know that, right?
And it's within range there. Why weren't there sharpshooters on top of that building? Why?
See, even he's asking these questions because these questions are there to be asked, right? This is a purposeful thing that happened here.
Were people yelling for almost 90 seconds? There's a shooter on top of the building. What the hell was going on there? Here's where they're yelling. There's a shooter up there. And 90 seconds. And Tom, I want to show you another video. And, I would love to hear from you even too on this. Look how long. Look how long Donald Trump is exposed.
I talked about this. Is it this video and last video? And it's just ridiculous because they're not shielding him. We've got this short woman here. She's down steps from Trump. And they're allowing him to pump his fist and, show what a tough guy is. He's not a tough guy. And he's trying to, pump up the crowd. This is his heroic moment. The photos of blood streaming down his face like he's, they say there was a documentary I watched about wrestling and professional wrestling, and they were talking about how red is green. And they would cut themselves with a razor blade to bleed because they would get more money for that. Blood was a big thing in the when the audience was able to see blood. So they keep a little razor blades wrapped in their their wrist wraps or whatever they had. They pull it out and they cut themselves across the forehead. And these guys had scars all across their forehead for where they had cut themselves, right? And so, Trump bleeding, pumping his fist. This is an iconic moment. It's all bullshit. He's a crisis actor. Now this thing looks, you know, unrealistic and surreal to all of us because these guys are not doing their jobs. But if these guys are actors, right, and this is a B movie, this looks completely legitimate. This is the kind of thing you'd see in a B movie.
What are these Secret Service people doing? Look how long he is exposed to a second, third, fourth shooter. Show that video again. A second, third.
Okay, so Morning Joe is calling bullshit, right? Okay, so I got some memes and other stuff I forgot. I got to insert this here before I get back to these other clips here. So somebody just got a tattoo with Trump. Like, this is the kind of dopery that's going around here, right? He scribbled some blood in here, and somehow Rosa Parks is inserted. Well, this is Hillary Clinton. Of course, the dude didn't have a double scope like she has there. I wouldn't have missed. These are good memes. And then it says here, federal judge dismisses the Trump classified document case. So already Trump is getting love. It's like he paid his dues by getting, you know, what would be considered an ear piercing, right? I mean, it's nothing more than grazing his ear with a bullet that didn't hit it, you know, so whatever happened, throwing some ketchup on. But this is the clip I wanted to get to, which is here. Let's get into this here.
The Secret Service is facing question about how the gunman was able to get on that roof about 130 yards from where former President Trump was standing. President Biden is ordering an independent review. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Congress will investigate. You've worked on many events like this where you went on the other side in law enforcement here. One of the questions is, why wasn't this guy shooter maybe on the radar beforehand?
Well, as far as he goes as an individual, and they're still digging into his social media and past, he is not on that list of people who are threatening the former president. He's not online making vitriolic statements that they've uncovered so far or calling for violence. He's just not on the radar.
Yeah, because that's what he wants. We'll get into that in a moment here.
Now, the other thing that's really remarkable...
You know, this is all handcrafted. Like I said earlier, you know, picking this as a big event that's happening before a big event, which is the convention, and the way that this is all rolling out, this is purposeful. And how many, you know, people are, I mean, the Trumpers are just up in arms and just completely radicalized, right?
Here is, in terms of planning, advanced planning, you know, how long was this in his mind? He's buying a box of 50 rounds of .223 rifle ammunition that afternoon, somewhere between 12 and 2 o'clock. He's in the gun store purchasing ammunition. So this doesn't sound like something that is something he'd been preparing for months. So
you mean he just thought about it that day? Hey, Trump's in town, and he pulled off this incredible, you know, like he just went out there and said, hey, there's a building over there. I think I'll climb on this roof. He didn't scope out he didn't have a scope, but he didn't scope out the scene of the crime and understand what he was going to do. He just said, hey, there's a building. I'll climb up on top of it. Like, this is what they're saying. This whole thing's falling apart because they wanted to, right? Okay, so I'm going to, I just realized this video's getting long. I've got a bunch more clips about the profile, and then I'm going to end it with the profile and then wrap this thing up and get it out there. And then I'll talk about the Joe Biden disastrous interview with Lester Holt and how he's, you know, all these things. But this guy is a Trump hater.
We're learning shocking new details about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump over the weekend. A Secret Service spokesman tells CNN that agents did not personally sweep the building where the gunman was perched at Saturday's rally. A source says one of 2 local counter snipers was supposed to be covering that very building. The Pennsylvania State Police says they were not responsible for that area. The head of the Secret Service, we should know, Kimberly Cheadle, announced this morning that the agency will fully participate in the independent review.
So why? Why was this an epic failure? Like, what's going on that they failed so epically, you know, in retrospect? And so there's 2 failures we're talking about here. The first one being this guy, you know, walked through the crowd, was carrying a rifle, got on top of a building. People were warning everybody. And there were snipers that should have seen him from across the way that eventually shot him. And there's still supposed to be another team of counter snipers that were supposed to be on the top of the building that the kid was on, right? So just that's a massive failure. And then after the shooter was down, the Secret Service allowed Trump's head to be exposed when there could have been second, third, multiple shooters. And they, it looked like a bad B movie, right? Which I'll get into in a bit. So this is all like part of this thing. Like this is just part of the package they put together.
Announced by...
and purposefully. So this is the dope Tom Macdonald poses as a truther, an independent rapper.
In an election, they got so offended by freedom that they just tried killing the president.
They got so offended by freedom, they don't want an election. They tried killing the president. This great rapport.
I used to think that the woke were misguided, but now I can see that they're evil.
Now I can see that they're evil. Because he goes into how they're leaving all these comments saying that, oh, you missed. Like, I just wish they didn't miss. And, you'd be saying the same thing if it was Biden. I mean, think about all the people that, if you're an anti-vaxxer and you see people who are suffering now because of they got the bloop and they have a heart attack. You're not happy about it, right? So ha ha ha. Like they were saying that, the left was saying it about anti-vaxxers. Oh, you guys are going to get COVID and die. Both sides are, celebrating the demise of the other. And let's just, be honest here, right? Like, I'm not a hateful person. I talked about that in terms of what I believe spiritually. But people are indulging in hate. And, like I said, I don't care because I know that your beliefs don't mean anything. Because the system's collapsing. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what you're willing to do to change, right? This is about me changing. I don't care about you, in terms of your responsibility to change. That's on you. Like, it's not my responsibility to get you to change, right? And, that's every person's personal responsibility. If you're not willing to change and evolve and see your part in this and take responsibility for your part in this, then, what can I do for you, right? And so this is, so when you suffer, you suffer. Like, it's your inability to change that makes you suffer. So I just want to add, I want to get into the profile stuff here. I've added some clips that I forgot about, but I just want to end this portion. They're all tied together, but the debacle that was the Secret Service failure and then all the rest of this miracle shot that this kid couldn't take, right? And this idea that, Tom Macdonald just said, that you tried killing the president, the woke. It wasn't the woke. This kid wasn't woke. Like, you don't even know what this kid is, and that's what we're going to get into in the profile. It's just what you want him to be, right? He's a blank slate. But in terms of the military and the government, we're good at killing people. America's probably killed more people than anybody, in history, in terms of world wars or whatever it is, right? I mean, America's good at killing people, not just in terms of American military, but all the weapons that have been produced by the military-industrial complex. But in terms of our efficient military and our assassins and our, snipers and things like this, you look at the Iraq War. Americans killed 1 million Iraqis, and there was like 4,000 American troops that died. So the ratio of the amount of Iraqis that were killed as opposed to the amount of American soldiers that were killed was astounding, right? Like, that's how bad it is. Like, it's just a completely lopsided affair. And American troops are going into a foreign country. It isn't like we're even defending ourselves. Like, we're going into these foreign environments, which it's harder to get motivated. You're invading a country. It's a whole thing. It's hard to get, pumped up for that stuff. But they're still very efficient. So saying that this somehow was botched, and they really tried to, but he missed, come on, it's silly. Like, you really want to believe in Trump. That's the problem. Your, inability to see Trump for who he is has distorted your reality. And then everyone else has got Trump derangement syndrome. You can't see what Trump is as a person. He's selfish, narcissistic, and he doesn't care about other people, right? Okay, so this video is a little discombobulated because I had to insert a couple of clips because my videos I took them out of order and I had so many up. And so now I want to get back to, this is commentary about what Morning Joe was saying about the whole, time that Trump was left unattended, and they didn't hide him away when they had no information. Like, they didn't know that there was only one shooter, right? How could they? So let's get back to that here. So again, we know that, all right, so he gets hit here, and the sniper team has already shot at the guy, right? So they're shooting back at the guy. They have a shorter shot and they have a scope. So he's doing this. They're already shot at least once, and then they shoot again. These guys all get down. There's multiple shots, and so this guy supposedly got off 5 shots before the sniper team got him. So trained sniper team, again, should have known the guy was up on the roof. It's all BS. And just this surreal moment, this guy they think is, the QBs think is John F. Kennedy Jr., I don't know, in disguise. He's at all these events. These people over here, someone getting shot over here, right? Apparently, this is the official story. And Trump's down. All right, so they say the sniper's down. Let's get him up. That's what they say here. Sniper's down. But no one says, oh, there's a second sniper. And, like, there could be someone in the crowd, somebody close over. This could be a team of people. There could be 3 or 4 people with guns in this place, right? So Trump gets up. Oh, let me get my shoes on. And again, we saw Trump. I can't find the video. Something like this happened before. Trump was completely cowering. As you get older, like as I get older, something that I'm aware of, and people who are in their 70s and 80s, you get rattled by things. Harder for you to drive at night. You get confused. You're not as physical. Things seem too loud. You know how old people can't listen to loud music? You're like, your ears get more sensitive. You get overstimulated. Just like young children, babies. Can't be so like he's been manhandled. Like, he's got all these people. He's been shot. Like, he's had a bullet whiz by, hit him in the ear and whiz by his face. These are things that change you, right? Like, when you're having a normal day, he's up there giving a speech like he does all the time, and all of a sudden something traumatic happens, and you're saying he had the wherewithal to pump his fist. No, he's an actor. This was something he was staged to do. That's why these guys let him do it. Like, this guy's putting his hand over his head. Like, he should be shoving him down. Like, they manhandle you. Then they grab you and they get you out of, there's no, let me put my shoes on. They pick you up and they grab you and they drag you off. I know Trump's a big fat turd, but again, like, he's exposed all over the place here from various angles. And they're like, this is like a bad B movie. He's like, you're doing this thing, pumping his fists. He's so uncoordinated. Look at, he's doing that thing. Look, yeah, tough guy. I'm a tough guy. Look, I'm a tough guy. I'm a patriot. Some guy comparing this to Iwo Jima, the flag thing. The whole thing's stupid, right? And it's stupid because these are not real guys. Like, these are actors, right? This is, guy throwing up the devil's horns over here. I mean, and there's people going in. And Trump doing it again. Like, they're allowing him, they'd be shoving him in the car, but they put his hand on his head and shoving him in. They allow him to step up and expose his head again, right? Because, he's a crisis actor, and this is crisis acting, and all these people are reacting because they're dopes. This guy could be an actor, who knows? I mean, but they're all dopes. Either way, they're dopes. And then all these people around here, right? They have 3 women here. Like, what's happening? Like, these and so, just a ridiculous thing. Like, it's just silly. So then he says this. Trump says this.
Former President Donald Trump speaking out overnight after arriving in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention.
Take a look at what happened.
Just 24 hours after his attempted assassination by a gunman at a camp.
Not a gunman, a 20-year-old disgruntled nerd. I mean, with obviously some psychological issues.
Campaign rally in Pennsylvania. The former president discussing what he called a very surreal experience.
Yeah, it was surreal, like almost like it was like a, like a play we were put on or a movie. It was like a.
With the New York Post saying, "I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead."
No, you're not. Like, they're trying to make it sound like this was professionally done, right? Because a professional, there's various ways they could kill Trump. I'll get into that in a moment. Let me get through this thing.
First-hand accounts of the shooting show an apparent breakdown in security leading up to the attempt on Mr. Trump's life.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look.
This new video emerging of the shooter earlier in the rally.
They knew there was someone up on the roof long before it. People said they saw him. There's video of it, right? This is all purposeful. This is all, there's a lot of stuff being sold to you right now. They're creating a narrative, setting people up to a particular trajectory, which I'll explain as we go through these videos.
The crowd reacting as they see the shooter crawling on the roof just outside of a protected perimeter some 150 yards from the former president.
It's right there in that brown building where that would-be assassin climbed up on the rooftop and took his position.
Valerie Fennell, who was standing just below, shared these photos. She says the lack of security she saw surprised her, pointing to this gate secured by zip ties.
Yeah, not everyone could figure out a zip tie. Not everyone has a pair of scissors.
Oh, there was no security on this side at all.
Are you shocked you're this close to the president that there was no security?
I kept asking Thinking about it now, yes.
So this is from Monday, right? And like I said, they released these profiles over a series of days. This is this is information that they slowly bring out, and then a lot of the early things you heard disappear. All these events, the things that you heard people say, things that were, and they disappear from the internet. Like, you can't find them. People are saying things on the news, people were there, and then they're just gone, right? And then whatever their narrative they've constructed becomes reality for people.
Let us bring in Tom Winter, NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent. Tom, good morning. We're learning about Thomas Matthew Crooks, but there's very little online about him. There was no manifesto, very little.
Why would there be a manifesto, Hilda? Why would there be a manifesto? I'm going to come back and say these exact same words. Let's get through this. Let's talk about the manifesto.
Social media presence, but you're slowly putting together a picture of who this
for your benefit.
Is.
That's right. Last evening, the FBI operational people, as well as the special agent in charge of this investigation, briefed reporters, and they say that right now, to your point, there is no indication specifically of what the motive might be.
There's a reason why they don't have a motive. Why was he angry at Trump? Why did he do this? A registered Republican who donated to Democrats, why did he do this? This troubled young man who was a loner and bullied. We'll get into the bullying a bit. Why did the guy do this? Why? Why'd you do this, bro? Why? Like, it's leaving it up to you to speculate. That's why.
The things that they're focusing on right here, the key to this potentially is the phone.
The phone.
Cell phone has been taken to FBI's research and laboratories in Quantico.
See, doesn't he look like some of these other guys? One guy in particular, but they all there's various they all look like they're not normal, and they're odd.
Virginia, they're going to try to break through the security, download everything on that phone. I think it's important for people to understand these cell phone forensic programs. Even if you try to delete something, it can typically find a record of what you tried to delete, if not the actual thing itself. And so they can get that information off of there. It's what might be deleted that could be as helpful to them as what is actually on the phone. But text messages, photos, apps, everything he's doing.
Anything he tried to Google.
Any memos, anything he tried to Google, his recent web history.
What did he Google? What did this guy Google?
How important
might he Google how to build a bomb? Because he also built a bomb.
That be? Because right now we're told federal investigators, they just don't have it. There's nothing there on the motive front. We do know a couple additional things. One, the gun was purchased legally. It's our reporting that it was purchased by the father. And I know folks are going to immediately ask questions about that and say, okay, did the father know? Was the family aware? It is our understanding from the FBI, they've said it on the record, the family is cooperating. And there's no indication at this point in the investigation that the family knew about this in advance or had any sort of role in it.
Hey, Dad, going to shoot Trump. Okay, son, don't stay out too late. What do you think happened? The family was involved in this?
Did leave behind.
I mean, the guy had multiple guns. The kid was a Republican, and the family owned multiple firearms. You think they're voting for a Democrat, right? They have AR-15. Almost everyone has an AR-15. I would say 90% of them are voting for Trump, right? And so, just silly stuff here.
Some canisters or containers in his vehicle that were also found at the house. There's some question about that. They've been described as rudimentary explosives. Those have been taken to the FBI laboratory, and so they're going to look those over. I think they're going to be more incendiary, the type of thing that he could have used to distract law enforcement while he climbed, as we've been looking at that video this morning up on that roof.
And then, Tom, I mean, about the
He was climbing up on the roof. He had to climb up on the roof with all these people, like in a crowd.
politics. I mean, it's political violence in the sense.
Okay, so she puts the G into Ghoul. Okay, so this again from yesterday, Monday.
Been here. There's a large media presence here. You've had members of the community come and approach us, including one person who said he actually went to high school with this suspected shooter. I want you to listen to a little bit of our conversation there.
He said that, and you guys believed him? Maybe he wants to get on TV.
He was bullied almost every day.
In what way? Can you explain?
I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're gonna see someone like that, and they're gonna target him because they think it's funny or whatever, so it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
You said he was a loner?
Yeah.
He's a loner and bullied?
I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much.
And this was high school?
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just.
Did they call him Trump shooter? They were like bullying him, saying, "Hey, you're gonna shoot Trump."
Fun of, I guess.
In the ear. Hey, ear shooter.
The way he dressed, his appearance.
So there's that.
And we are now also getting some new details about the gunman and his background. We're learning more about him, and our Danny Freeman has been doing so much of that reporting. So, Danny, what have you learned about the gunman here in these past moments?
Well, Aaron, I'll start with the newest information that we just received from a briefing that the FBI conducted in the
Again, this is yesterday.
Past hour or so. We're talking about Thomas Matthew Crooks. This is the 20-year-old suspect who is accused of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. According to the FBI, we now know that they believe that he acted alone, and the FBI also believes that there's no indication of mental health issues.
You mean he wasn't diagnosed with anything?
With Mr. Crooks.
Again, this is a blank slate. I'll get into this in a moment, this profile.
Also have learned in the past hour that part of this investigation is the FBI has actually gotten access to Thomas Crooks's phone, but at this point they don't have access to the information inside the phone. And they have shipped it to Quantico, according to the FBI headquarters, to try and figure out how to get inside. And the other thing, Aaron, that perhaps is surprising, but the FBI said it on this briefing, is that they have not at this point identified any sort of ideology that would give clues.
Again, this is all purposeful.
Again, the big question that everyone has, what caused this man to go to this Trump event and open fire at the former president, ultimately injuring him, killing one, and injuring two other rallygoers in the crowd. Now, I do want to just go over some of the things that we do know in addition to some of this information, Aaron. We also learned in the past hour or so that Mr. Crooks was a dietary aide at the Bethel Park Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center.
Sounds like a real tough guy.
Nursing home that's
real murderer. So TMC has broke the story here. Here's Thomas Matthew Crooks.
A 10-inch penis.
And why he's getting the bunny ears. So they broke the story. Okay, so this has been going on. This is a intelligence community, a thing that they do, like a program. This is how an operation that they have put out there, right? In terms of profiling these individual loner shooters. Remember the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, where they had these MK Ultra guys all carrying around a copy of Catcher of the Rye. And when they didn't have the book, they would panic and they'd have to go buy the book. And so it was a way for them to track them. This is before they could ship people, right? They would find, where copies of Catcher of the Rye were being sold, and they'd be able to figure out where these guys were if they lost track of them, right? And they were sort of like sleeper cells. But in terms of what the FBI puts out there to the public, there is this profile going back to the JFK assassination, and then, even before that. but it's something that they've been using a lot very recently. And what it is that there is these guys out there, and they are loners. They are losers. They were bullied. They feel victimized and self-righteous, and they create manifestos, right? And even though these guys don't have a social circle, they don't usually belong to a part of a club or, like like a amateur assassins club, right? Why do they all write manifestos? Now, Hoda said this, but I heard, I think at least 6 other people. I don't know if I have the clips up here. I'm not showing you all the clips or all that I saw in the clips because the video would be too long, but a number of these people said they haven't found a manifesto yet. So why do these guys write manifestos? You know who writes manifestos? The CIA or intelligence community people, right? And the reason they write manifestos is because they have created this profile that it makes it appear that there is these groups of people out there that are, or individuals out there who belong to some group, even though they're not tied to any group. They're not tied to really any ideology or any sort of, structure. And yet they all have the same profile and they all do the same behaviors. It's like this idea that there's a disease out there and these guys catch it, some mental disorder, and this disorder causes you to assassinate people, shoot people, and then write a manifesto on why you do it. And usually it's just killing random people just to kill people. And these murderous wannabe assassins are being churned out, and they always have the same type of, why are they saying, oh, where's the manifesto? Why would the guy write a manifesto? Who has time to write a manifesto? Like who? I mean, with social media, you could just make an audio, video, any of these things, right? There could be video clips out there, and they could find all this stuff. There's ways of putting out what you feel in terms of, the best way is through like communication on the internet in terms of videos and just shooting videos and things, rather than sitting down and writing a manifesto, right? But it's a part of their profile, right? They've had this thing called an organization called the Anarchists, which is a government-run organization that exists in the 30s. It was 1930s, right, even before that. And, it seemed like it was an anti-government organization, but it would do things to provoke government control. It was completely controlled by the government, and they would act in a way that would allow the government to take action and take away people's rights, the general public's rights, right? So they do these types of things. And so there is this profile out there, and this guy fits the profile. But what they've done here by delaying any sort of manifesto or any sort of political ideology, people have no idea why this guy did what he did. That's what they're saying. Why? Why did he do this? We don't know. And so when there is we don't know, there's a vacuum there, and people have so many opinions now. So they've created this blank slate. That coupled with the failure of the Secret Service and the performative nature of Donald Trump and saying he should be dead, right? And then playing the victim and milking this thing for everything it's worth as he's, given this premier role now. Like people look at him as being heroic because he hold his fist in the air after they squirted some ketchup on the side of his ear. And so the whole thing's like an absolute joke. And it's there to provoke people to believe whatever you believe. Like the people who are anti-gun, they're like, haha, Trump, you're getting AR-15'd. You're getting, you push for AR-15s. There's a Trump AR-15 out there that Donald Jr. uses, like a brand, like you can buy a Trump, some kind of, it's got Trump stuff on it, right? The AR-15 with Trump, a Trump brand, like a Trump Bible. So for the liberals, it's about gun control or whatever else, right? But for the conservatives and people who are Trumpers, oh man, they tried to get him. They don't believe about this story about this kid or whatever it is. And the Secret Service stood down and they're like, oh, Trump's a hero. They just missed him. God's protecting Trump. He's like the second coming because that's what these dumpy Trumpers believe, right? Everyone's going to now make up their own shit because, especially people who listen to the news and want the news to tell them what to think. And now there's nothing there. There's no reason this guy, well, he was a Republican, but yet he donated to Democrats and he was a loner and, he was bullied. And then there's, he's bragging about the size of his penis. Does that mean it's a part of an AR-15 gun? It's just goofy stuff, right? And the reason that they're doing this is obvious because now everyone's just making it up. And that's what they want people to do. Make it up based in your prejudices, your beliefs. And, this thing is obviously a big thing, right? Because I just saw a clip from JoJo, which we'll get to. I saw one clip from the interview with Lester Holt this morning. Let's see if I can find that. And it's just bad. Like the interview JoJo did. And yet no one's even talking about him being getting rid of JoJo, which they desperately want to do and have to do. But they can't because like this Trump thing and the rest of it. So let's get into all that here. Okay, so I want to wrap this up for today. I got more stuff coming in. I already got this, clips of Biden at it's his latest interview and how he's avoiding. Now they can't get rid of him, right? It's like hilarious. And so I'll, cover that again. But the key to these events, you have to see what the outcome is. And right now, as of right now, Trump is a shoo-in for the presidency. Now, things are going to happen 3 months, whatever. October surprise. I mean, they, get rid of Joe Biden. But right now, they're picking Trump to be the president, right? And again, you say these guys are conspiring against Trump, but Joe Biden was showing signs of severe, Parkinson's syndrome, breakdown in cognition back in February. But then when they handpicked him in 2019, like I said so much, he was already showing signs of dementia and these Parkinson's syndromes, right? Symptoms. And so they withheld that information, and it's worked to their disadvantage. They weren't going to be able to hide him away forever, and he was falling apart before the debate. And so the debate, and they couldn't control him, whatever it was, I mean, these are their assets, but they have trouble controlling him. And so he imploded. But it was, at the worst possible time for them and the best possible time for Trump. Then the Supreme Court rules that Trump isn't going to go to prison before the election, and then he can do whatever he wants and not be prosecuted. So, like, those two things happened all at once. Now they're dismissing Trump court cases. You see how things are breaking for Trump right now. So you have to ask why is that happening? You think that they don't control all this stuff, right? These dumb Trumpers that believe in the deep state, it's because they want Trump. Like right now, it looks like they want Trump, and that might change or whatever it is. But the assassination attempt helped him. And so, this alleged assassination attempt. But like I said before, they either control all these things or they control nothing. You can't control some of it. Of course, there are parts of it that are out of their control. But I mean these events that are staged and they look so stagecraft and they look like they're part of a movie. They don't seem real. These events that happen all the time, they have to control all of it, and the outcome has to be there. Occasionally it could backfire, but that's not the case here. And so if you don't understand Trump's a crisis actor, it's because you belong to a cult, the cult of Trump, and there's nothing Trump can do and there's no information that can come to you that's going to change your mind. And that means you're pathetic and you're not really a truther, right? Because, Trump has always been a selfish prick. Like, he just has been. Like, he didn't become selfish recently. He's always been about himself. He's not there for you. And if you still believe his lies, then, what good are you in terms of any of this stuff, right? Like, if you're not at least questioning, it's obvious that he's a crisis actor. And this whole thing where they're going to bring in kumbaya and we're not going to divide Americans, all this stuff is predicated on the division and people's beliefs and their hatred being fired up. If you're a Trumper, you believe that the kid isn't, the real shooter, that there's a real professional assassin that got up there, and Trump just happened to move and missed, and it was an act of God or whatever you believe. And then Trump, celebrating and raising his fists was a moment of triumph, right? And if Trump was in it for you, he wouldn't expose his head. If Trump actually thought that there was a possibility they still shoot at him, he wouldn't expose his head. He would have protected himself because he needs to be there for you. He needs to help you. He can't be killed because, if he gets killed, Joe Biden or whatever it is, there's nobody like him. He's the only guy who can save you. But he's out there waving his arm and all that stuff. It was stupid. It's just silly. It looks silly. It's like only a child would believe that this is real. And, there it is. Anyways, I'll keep on covering this in the next whatever amount of time it is. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Robato, definitely praying for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.